And a good Friday morning to you. It is Glenn Clark Radio. I am Glenn Clark. It's Friday, so Stan the Fan Charles is here with us. PressBox's Chief Graham Poobah.
Is that on camera?
You really?
On camera?
I don't know. Can you see the remnants of the? It's very important
powder
to Stan.
Powder cake donuts.
So this means that we're gonna pitch a perfect game today, right? Because you
Pretty
got your
much.
powder ahead of time.
Pretty much.
And by powder, we mean yes, of course, cocaine.
I'm not taking a powder. Yeah,
that was what we meant. Stan got his cocaine.
That was
before
in
the
a
show today.
different iteration of Stan.
Oh my! I don't know if you saw the meme that was going around last night after the president said that we're gonna make let everybody out.
Pardoning all the
federal, which unfortunately is not a lot.
Possession only.
Yes,
not
more
dealer.
people that are dealing with that are at the state level than are at the federal level. But there was a segment on the Laura Ingraham program last night where she said it's just a cryon and it says like it starts with marijuana, but where does it go from here? And it became just a really great internet meme and Twitter meme of probably Doritos, like probably, and I was
Taco Bell,
right? Correct. A lot of that is probably where it goes from here.
You know, the drug of marijuana has still been classified.
Yeah, I did not.
Still with cocaine,
right,
and
heroin.
LSD, LSD and cocaine.
It's a Schedule A.
Yeah.
Is what it was listed as. I was informed that fentanyl is only a Schedule B, so we definitely have things figured out in this country. We've got things. Yeah. We know what we're doing here.
That's why we stick to the games.
Correct. We are definitely better suited to talk about horrible football games. MC Ernest is running the board today. Griffin is with us as well.
Is this MC Ernest running the board now? Is that so you can move on from?
Oh, you think I'm doing the?
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't thinking about that. I'm glad you brought that up.
You might be
Stan.
careful about that. This is how bad things were in radio for a long time. You would have like a vacation that you were scheduled to take,
right? And you would,
and you would suddenly start thinking about like who they might have fill in for you, and then you'd be like, no, you know what? I think I'm gonna cancel that vacation because you got real nervous that then you came back. They'd be like, well, this sounds great.
Yeah.
In fact, that happened to me once with Liz Drabick. And I love Liz.
Yeah.
Love her. But I knew the moment I went on vacation, I'm like, she's prettier than I am. They're all going to be like, why don't we hang out with her more often?
Right.
I might have made a small mistake here. Decided to take a couple days off.
Miscalculation.
Yeah, that happens. Life goes on. It's all worked out in the end. Look at me. Now I get to hang out here. Speaking of good-looking people, I get to hang out with you. Why would I want to be hanging out with Liz Drabick when I can hang out with Stan the Fan Charles? It's the way it goes. A lot to do on the program today.
Big game Sunday.
Yeah, huge game, obviously, on Sunday. Speaking of which, Mike Tirico is going to join us a little bit later. He is on the call for NBC for Sunday Night Football.
So I'll finally get a chance to talk to Mike.
Oh, I got just terrible news for you. Terrible news.
You said Mike Tirico's on the show.
He's going to be on the show, but he made it abundantly clear. He gave us a rider before he would come on the show.
Really?
He said, I want all red and green M&Ms.
Right.
I want 24 cases of Aquafina. And I was like, well, that's strange. I don't know why you'd ever.
Right.
Who wants that?
Not Aquavelva.
No, not Aquavelva. He's good there. Just Aquafina. And then he said, and I would rather die than talk to Stan the Fan Charles. And I said, well, boy, that is really
funny,
over the
funny
over
for
the
somebody
top.
I never spoke to. I guess John Saunders.
I
guess
got
John
the
Saunders
word
bad
right. The word got out, my friend. I'm so sorry.
ago.
The word got out.
The late John.
We had to record with Mike Tirico because he's a very busy man.
Yes,
unfortunately,
he is. I'm sure he is.
We had to do that yesterday. In fact,
Very high paid man.
He is a very high paid man. He's a very talented man. All of those things are true.
He is.
In just a few minutes, former NFL head coach and former Ravens assistant Mike Smith just get his thoughts on the Ravens' aggressive style of late and the impact that can have on a team. We've been talking about throughout the week. Obviously, the ugly scene with Marcus Peters from this past Sunday. Like, this was the first time it didn't appear as though everyone was on board. This was the first time since the Ravens in 2019 decided to sort of go into this aggressive style that I wouldn't call it a mutiny because it was one guy, and he's an emotional player, but it was the first time that we saw sort of some pushback internally.
I was watching the game at home. I did not go to the game, so
Yeah, it was
I didn't
miserable.
even. I really didn't even see the incident.
Well, I
with
saw it at the
Peters.
end of the game. I was not aware until I spoke to Brandon Noble, who had worked the radio broadcast
Right.
the next day, that this had actually started on the fourth down call. that Marcus Peters and his knit cap was bolting down the field to try to get John Harbaugh to call a timeout to think about it a little bit more before they decided to go for it on fourth down. Look, we talked to we will also get you segment number 3 of the Tyus Bowser Show with Mark Andrews later. We talked to those guys about it. You know, they're still saying they're on board. Everything's good, the whole deal. They want to go try to win the game. But that was the first time we saw real pushback.
Like a split.
Right, internally. Maybe it's just one guy. Maybe literally it's just Marcus Peters.
But it's doubtful that it's one guy.
We will talk about what the impact of something like that can be with Mike Smith here in a couple of minutes. And also Bo Smolka will check in with us as he does every Friday.
What is Mike doing now?
I don't even know the answer to that question, if I'm being honest with you. We have a sort of a rotation of former head coaches that when we want the opinion of a former head coach, we got a group of guys that we reach out to. There's the Mikes, Mike Smith, Mike Nolan, Mike Tice is on that list, the former Terp.
Yep.
Those are some of the guys that we reach out to. Who do we have on yet? We had Marty Mornhinweg on yesterday as a guy that we reach out to sometimes.
So Bill Belichick will be on that list.
Well, he's not correct.
Well,
he's an Annapolis guy. You would think that he'd want to make sure he comes back home and be involved locally.
You could talk lacrosse with him.
100%. I would love to talk lacrosse with Bill. I think it's the only thing he'd be willing to talk about. I don't think that he'd be willing to do a football segment. But Mike Smith will join us in a couple minutes. All right. Stan, just quickly before we get into any of that, your feelings about the. Hang on, I need to do. You know, whenever you're here, I'm bad at doing reads. I don't know what it is. I'm bad at it, and we still need to pay the bills around these parts.
Yes, we do.
Today's show brought to you by the Maryland 5-Star. I know Stan's very excited. He's getting ready to head out to Cecil County next week. You can see Olympic athletes in action as the nation's best horses and riders compete in one of the world's premier equestrian events. It's the Mars Maryland 5-Star at Fair Hill, presented by Brown Advisory, October 13th through 16th in Cecil County. One of the questions I've been going to this week, we have seen a lot of good from the Baltimore Ravens through 4 games. The stat that everybody's jumping on this week, they've trailed for a total of 14 seconds through 4 games, which is remarkable, of course. It's been the wrong 14 seconds, unfortunately. There's the flip side argument. Good teams don't blow 2 separate 3-possession leads at home in as many tries. You can't consider yourself a good team if you've done that. Where are you between the good and the bad and the totality of what the Ravens are at what we still, despite the fact that it's now a 17-game season, kind of consider the quarter pole?
Yeah. I'll just say this. There have been probably 2 times in the history of PressBox that I've called for John Harbaugh to be ousted.
Oh, my.
I've written columns about it. And it hasn't been for a while, probably about 5-6 years. And I would just say I do not believe that Steve Bisciotti would remove him during the middle of a season. I think this is a very critical game for his tenure with the ball club. You know, that's all.
Why do you think that?
Because I think if they win this game, they can end up 5-2, and nobody's talking about this. And I think if they lose this game, they're really in a bad spiral. And I'll tell you what else is at play here. How many home games now have they lost in a row?
Yeah, 5, I guess it is. But
I thought it was 3 or 4 last year and 2 this year.
2 this year.
So I'm just saying. You know, Steve Bisciotti has not left M&T Bank Stadium with a bad taste in his mouth this many times at any juncture in John Harbaugh's tenure.
The pushback I'll give to that is I have no reason to think that anything that happened last year. I mean, I say it in a nice way, but those weren't the Ravens. They were a group of guys that were wearing purple that we called the Ravens because somebody had to play, but they were guys that. Again, we're serving you your powdered donut this morning at Dunkin' Donuts for what it's worth. I don't when we throw that number out about what adding on the end of last year to this year, I can't believe for a second that Steve Bisciotti thinks about that. If that's the case, then there are bigger problems. If Steve Bisciotti is judging John Harbaugh by what you couldn't with your life on the line name the guys that were playing in the secondary for the Baltimore Ravens last season. They're not NFL players. If that's what you're judging John Harbaugh on, then there's a bigger problem. The owner, you've become a maniac at that point. I refuse to believe that. Now, to the success of this season, I think this can be a really important game.
Yeah.
I think that for this season's success, I think that you set yourself up to say, we got to draw a line in the sand, and at some point we've got to start making a move. If we're going to be one of the teams to beat in the AFC, if we're going to have a chance to get the number 1 seed, which doesn't feel likely at the moment, but they're still in the mix for that. And obviously now with only one team getting a bye in the first round, it's more important to be the number 1 seed specifically. For those reasons, I think this is a big game. I struggle with this one as being important for John Harbaugh. I could see a world in which they lose this, and then there are games later this season that do become important for John Harbaugh. I struggle with this one specifically just because it's still week 5.
I'd have to know if they do, in fact, lose the game. I'd have to know how they lost it. But this little chink in the armor with the Marcus Peters blow-up incident at the end of the game, it's just an indication that there's just something that, the critical mass of a team could splinter apart. I would just say that this is a very, very important game for John Harbaugh. Not that I'm predicting if he loses the game, he's getting fired after the game. I mean for the team to have a successful season.
That part I have no problem with for the success of the season. Yeah. This is an important game. I have no problem with that. And I think sometimes we get carried away on how these things work, and we get emotional after, like the idea that somebody was getting fired because they lost a game in week 4. Nobody's getting fired.
It's week 5 now. Week 5.
I understand that. I don't think it's going to happen in week 5 either. Nobody's getting fired. They're not firing great. Like, it's just not the way that it works. Now, that being said, again, if it were to the idea of it spiraling from last year, I dismiss entirely. But if in this season, if what happened over 2 of the last 3 weeks were to lead to this thing spiraling in season, yeah.
I heard a stat the other day that they're allowing over 300 yards passing over the 4 games.
It sounds
right.
And
that no other team is doing that.
It sounds right. I mean, they can't get after quarterbacks. They have no edge rush whatsoever. Yep. I just don't know who's...
that gets back to Eric and the players they've drafted, the players they've acquired. I tend to think the defense is going to come around a little bit. I think JP3 is or what is his name?
Jason Pierre-Paul. I don't know. JPP is what they call him.
JPP. I think he's gonna. I was impressed with him the other day for a guy who hadn't
given the circumstances,
and played,
Yeah, I thought given the circumstances, he did about as much as you could have asked him to do.
He was in there for like 85, 86% of the plays. Yeah.
Way more than I would have expected him to be in there for, given the circumstances. But they had to have him in there. I mean, they just didn't. They didn't have another option but to run Jason Pierre-Paul out there. They will hopefully get Justin Houston back this week, and that would add something. We'll talk more about that with Bo Smolka coming up in a bit. I don't think it's likely that we see Tyus return for week 5. I think at this point that's
more like at week 8.
I don't know about week. I don't in the coming weeks. I get the sense. I just don't think it's going to be this week. But at some point, and I think that if they can keep all of these guys healthy, and they can have a scenario at some point where they have all of them on the field, that should go some way into improving the pass defense on the whole. But yeah, I mean it ain't good enough right now. There's no question about that.
Yep.
And they're still not running the ball well enough, and Justice Hill is now a huge question mark going into Sunday against the Bengals as well. But other than that,
doesn't mean Kenyon Drake's coming back.
I mean, it could. Unfortunately, it could. That is what it could mean if they don't have Justice Hill out there, because it doesn't seem like it's going to be Gus Edwards yet. Hey, the Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines. You can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today. I always like getting the perspective of a former head coach, and this man, of course, once upon a time was an assistant here in Baltimore, went on to a very successful tenure as the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. It's a pleasure, as always, for us to welcome back Coach Mike Smith to GCR. Coach, it's Glenn Clark, Stan the Fan Charles, back here in Baltimore. Great to catch up with you as always. Thank you for taking the time for us.
Well, Glenn, good to catch up with you. Looking forward to talking.
Coach, first of all, I want to know, we remember that you were involved, you and your brother-in-law had a battle mano-a-mano as coaches last year. What are you up to now? What's going on in Mike Smith's world?
Well, I'm game planning actually to get that win against him again this year in the Hula Bowl.
You guys are doing it again.
We're doing it again.
Oh, that's
yes,
awesome.
We are.
That's cool.
Yeah. We're looking forward to doing it, working with with these draft eligible players that are going to be coming up. But I got to get the W, and then I might retire again.
Okay, then it's so Brian got you last time, is what you're saying.
That's right.
How does
21-20.
Now, how does Brian, we know, has some secret fire, right? Like, he's very professional, but he's got some fire in there, and it can come out. Does he remind you about it after he gets the win over you, or does he, leave you alone about it afterwards?
Well, after I bought dinner, he let it go. But until I bought dinner, he didn't let it go.
Sounds about right. That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Coach, wanted to get your perspective, just broadly. The Ravens in the last few years have become a very aggressive team. And they have chosen time and time again to say, hey, in short yardage situations, fourth down, almost no matter the circumstances, we're going to go for it. I mean, we've seen them go for it from their own 30-yard line. We've seen them go for it a lot over these last couple of years. And people use the words analytics. Sometimes the analytics don't scream that you have to do something. They just choose to do it anyway. What do you make just broadly of the idea of a team deciding this is who we are, this is what we're going to be, and circumstances almost be damned, we're just going to be this team no matter what we're faced with?
Well, I think analytics have become a big part of the National Football League and college football. They have all these decision-making trees that you can go through as a head coach. But I really think you have to have a philosophy going in. I think the analytics are just a piece of what the decisions are going to be made. And, the tough thing about analytics is they may say the analytics say that you should do this, but it's 52-48. And to me, that's 50-50. That's a coin flip. And, those are the things that are the hard ones. And coaches, if it doesn't work and if it was 52-48, there's going to be some people that aren't happy about it. And when it happens, fans are going to be fans. They're fanatical about it. They're going to talk about it. John, he decided to make a decision this past weekend, and it was a gut decision. It wasn't a 60-40 thing. It was one of those 52-48s, and he felt like, it gave him the best opportunity to win. And that's what coaches do. And John's made a lot of great decisions in his time there in Baltimore, So, this is just a little blip, in my opinion. You don't make all the right decisions as a head football coach, but John Harbaugh's done a great job.
Coach, after John's career, he's coached for a long time, and of course he was an assistant for a long time on special teams with the Eagles. But what do you think happened that plays in a coach's conversion to being more aggressive? Because I guarantee you, for the first 40 years of John's life as a coach, he's probably never done this kind of thing, and yet the last 4 to 6 seasons, he's become increasingly so. How do you think he got convinced?
Well, I think that you look at the numbers. That's one thing that you have to look at. And believe me, that you can get mesmerized by all the different numbers that come at you. But I think you get a feel for it, and he's decided that he's going to be more on the aggressive side, and I think that's the trend across the board in the NFL and in college football. The numbers are up and on going for it, fourth down, and you're going to win some and you're going to lose some. And I think John's made a conscious effort to be one of the more aggressive coaches, and it's worked out very well the majority of the time.
He is Mike Smith. He is with us here on Glenn Clark Radio. Coach, you mentioned not everybody's always going to agree, and we saw an incident on Sunday where Marcus Peters, veteran cornerback, was vehemently opposed, and it got explosive there for a little bit. Is there any risk there? Like most of the players will always say, hey, look, I love aggressiveness, and I believe them. I think most players like the idea of being the team that goes and tries to win the game right now. But do you worry at all about when something goes wrong, hey, what does this mean? And do I have to listen to guys who maybe don't share that opinion? And how can that affect a football team where you have a situation where someone so kind of publicly makes their opinion known that they're not on board with it?
Well, let me tell you, things that are said on the sideline during a game are usually emotional statements, and especially coming from the players. And I think that cooler heads will always reside, and you'll come back to it, and you have to have those conversations at a different time. And I think as the head coach, to make sure that it doesn't fester for a long time, you've got to address it, and you address it with the team, you address it with the individuals. And I'm sure John has done that. I'm sure he and Marcus have all made up, because there's a lot of things that happen on a sideline during a game that are such a high-pressure situation, and we're not always going to agree. And then when you have an opportunity to sit down and talk about, here's the why, and I think John does that with his football team. Here's the why we did this. Mm-hmm. And you put it behind you and you move on to the next week. You can't let things fester from one week to the other in the National Football League, or you'll just blow up your locker room.
I have this philosophy, Coach, that it matters as much as whatever we see in the next game. And you can tell me if I'm crazy about that, but I feel like, when we talk about this, we say, I have every reason to believe exactly what you said. These guys get together, they talk it out, they're men, they understand that, hey, it's a 50-50 decision. This is the one that we made. It didn't work out. We move forward. And as long as we get to Sunday night and the Ravens play the Bengals and, we don't see any lingering effects, I'm willing to believe that they moved on from it. If we get to Sunday night and, John's faced with a 4th and goal from the 2, and, I feel like it all comes down to this matters as much as whatever we see the next game.
Well, yeah, the next game or the next couple of games, because you never know if you're going to get in that same situation.
Sure.
And, it might be a couple games. And, the big thing that people have to realize, the sky's not falling in Baltimore. There's 3 teams in the division that are 2-2, and the Baltimore Ravens are one of them. I think sometimes we forget some things. Now there's some issues that have to be addressed. 2 of the losses have come where you had 21-point leads and 17-point leads. And, I think those are the things that you want to really address as a coach, because that's not a one play thing. That's a trend, and the offense, defense, and special teams all contribute to that. So you can't point fingers. You've got to look at it realistically. And I haven't watched the games and studied it, but when you have 21-point lead and a 17-point lead, and I think John's like second in the history of the NFL in terms of number of times he's won with 17-point lead. So those are the things that I think that you got to address in the long run, because it's a long season, guys, as you know. Now playing 17 games,
no doubt,
there's going to be a lot of emotional things happen over 17 games.
Mike, last year we played the Bengals, and they beat the living crap out of us in the first game. The second game, we were a pretty banged up bunch by that time, really banged up. Do you have a feel for how this game needs to play out for the Ravens to win?
Well, I think it's going to go through the quarterbacks. And in most games in the National Football League now are, it's a quarterback-driven league, and it's going to be how well, they play. And, Lamar's playing fantastic football thus far. And I know there were, in the preseason, there was all kinds of talk about it. Hey, he's come out and played extremely well. And Joe Burrow's coming off the injury last season, and he's playing well. But more and more every week, I see it as a fan. I see it as a former coach. This is a quarterback-driven league, and you're going to, it's going to go through him, and you're lucky when both Cincinnati fans and Baltimore fans are very lucky, because they've got 2 fine quarterbacks that can, make game-changing plays throughout the season. And that's what you got to have. You got to have those quarterbacks that can make those plays, whether it's with his feet, whether it's with his arm. They're different styles, but it's a quarterback-driven league, and the wins and the losses usually are going to go by the way the quarterback plays.
No doubt. Like we get to watch great quarterbacks like Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow and Matt Ryan and Russell Wilson, and we're just really, really lucky. Well, the first two are pretty good. Did you watch last night, Coach?
No, I didn't.
Okay, you are a lucky man.
But just
you are a lucky man.
Yeah, it seems like it might have been a throwback game to the 64s, looking at the score anyway.
Yeah, it was really, really bad football. Hey, Coach, before we let you go, I wondered if you could share a thought, too, with us. Obviously, a big storyline the last week around the league has been the situation in Miami and Tua. And I can only imagine how difficult this is for all parties involved because players are so inclined to want to play. Like, it's just what, this is what you do for a living. Chefs want to cook. Guys that talk about dumb sports takes on the radio want to do that.
To eat powdered donuts.
Yeah, that's what we do. Players want to play, and obviously teams want to have their best players on the field if there's any possibility of that being the case. Can you explain some of the awkwardness of these situations and guys wanting to be out there and you being in a spot where you got to coach a football game, so you can't be the one clearly that knows all the information from the screening. Can you just take us through how these things happen where we see these scenes like what we saw with Miami over the course of the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, it's been a bad optic for the for football and for the National Football League. I really believe that, and we have to protect, as a coach, you've got to be a protector of the players because, as you mentioned, probably 98% of the players don't want to let their team down, and they aren't thinking about the actual results and how they're going to be affected 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. And I think it was a failure by the process that's put in place by the NFL that allowed this to happen. So it needs to be addressed with the people. And I mean, if it looks like a concussion, it smells like a concussion, it needs to be treated as a concussion. And you've got to protect your players as the head football coach. And I know the other parts are tough to deal with when you say, we want to win, this guy gives us the best chance. We can't do that. We got to take those guys off the field and protect them from themselves because that's really what's going on. And I think 95% of the coaches that I've ever been around take that view as well. We've got to protect the players. It's a great game. It's a violent game. And we just want to make it better. And the way to make it better, that we've had all these safety rules all that put in place. They're trying to do it, but this was a failure the last couple weeks in terms of getting the guys off the field, and don't let them go back on.
No question. Coach Mike Smith,
well put.
Great to catch up with you, sir. Appreciate you taking a few minutes for us this morning. Would love to chat with you again as the season goes on. Thank you so much.
Well, you're very welcome. You guys have a great weekend, and it ought to be a fun football game this weekend
question.
For NFL fans. And it won't be a 12-3, I don't think. Or
12-9. Yeah, right. Correct. I think you're right about that. Thank you, Coach. Appreciate it.
You guys have a great day.
You as well. Coach Mike Smith joining us here on GCR. So how much of the game did you watch last night, Stan?
I watched I turned it on with about 5 minutes left in the game.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, you're lucky. Yeah. You only.
I could not believe. I was almost I'm now using that word gobsmacked an awful lot. Yeah. I'm as gobsmacked as Richard Sherman was after the game when he took the Lord's name in vain.
Well, I mean, a lot of us that survived.
I guess you can do that on streaming.
Yes, correct. There's not the same rules as there are on network television.
I was amazed that Russell Wilson threw that pass, the one that got picked.
I don't know what they were doing. I don't know anything about what they're doing, though. It is so difficult for me to figure out. It's easy to say Russell Wilson's shot, but then I think so little of Nathaniel Hackett that Like, I'm inclined to say maybe
he's had two muffs in his first 5 games as a head coach. I mean, that was not a good look. Not a good look.
Bad. And another drop, much like there is. Yes, MC Ernest, you could.
I was just praying to see Nick Foles come in at some point.
So Matt Ryan definitely was not good. The other thing about Matt Ryan is he is just pushing the ball. Like, there is no. It's uncomfortable to watch.
He was definitely pushing it after that injury, where you could see he was definitely pushing the ball after he hurt his wrist.
Like, it is bad. It is tough to watch the ball come out of his hand.
Yeah.
You're like, it's a lot of people are comparing it to Drew Brees at the end of his career, or Tim Tebow in the apex of his career. Maybe Matt Ryan still has something left that he just needs. I don't know, but this is alarming right now. Yeah. He is just doing it.
It was a
big
win for that team, though. That somehow they clearly got outplayed most of that game.
I guess it's a big win if they get Jonathan Taylor back. I guess.
Yeah, winning a game without Taylor.
Correct. Somehow, some way. What an atrocious.
What do you think of that Thursday night broadcast team?
Nothing. I think. Look, it's still Al Michaels. You know what I mean? Like, he's still a professional, but I never understood the Kirk Herbstreit thing to begin. I mean this in the nicest way possible. I don't dislike Kirk Herbstreit in any way.
And he's informative on what we've grown accustomed to him being informative on.
But my issue is he brings nothing. I never understood why it is that this country thinks there is more of a demand for Kirk Herbstreit. Mm-hmm. I don't get it. I don't get what it is.
He must have a good agent.
Oh, he's definitely got a good agent. Yeah. He goes from game day to the biggest Saturday night game of the week on ABC, and I don't know why we think there's a group of people that are just demanding more Kirk Herbstreit in their lives. He's fine. He's totally fine.
He doesn't, and I don't mean content-wise. He does. The things he says are pretty intelligent, okay? But the broadcast sat there like a smelly fart to me. It just was so quiet. There was no excitement. And I'm not talking about manufactured excitement.
Yes, the game
but when
made
Chris Collinsworth, that game, okay, that's true. Maybe that game put them both to sleep.
It's really hard.
It was a sleepy broadcast to me.
I've done a lot of bad soccer matches in my life where the ball almost never leaves the midfield, and it is really hard. It is a very, very difficult to generate.
But those games, you're doing the play-by-play,
correct.
And there's not a second where you're not talking.
Understood.
Okay.
I thought there was an awkwardness last night about the pre-prepared content that they had for the broadcast, like the graphics.
I didn't see enough of that.
So they had, graphics and storylines they wanted to get into, but the only storyline anyone cared about was the game sucks. And it's a very awkward thing to do that you can only lean into that so much because the NFL clearly does not want their broadcast partners to be leaning into how much the game sucks. Right. At one point, Al Michaels tried to say something like, Kirk, you ever seen a game that was so bad that it was almost good? And Kirk Herbstreit was just like,
nice spin on it.
Kirk Herbstreit was just like, no. That's
he's what trying. I mean. Chris Collinsworth would have had 1,000 words on that.
Sure.
There's not dead air with Chris Collinsworth, and I'm not saying I'm opposed to dead air.
Right.
But there's no real chemistry between the two of them.
I think there are times where you want to let the moment breathe. I'll criticize both Michael Kay and John Sterling a little bit for their Aaron Judge 60. I thought Sterling's was better, but they were so interested in getting their pre-prepared shtick in that instead of letting the moment breathe a little bit.
I haven't heard either one of those.
But they were Michael Kay's was nothing. Right. I wish I thought Michael Kay was good at something. I think he's fine.
I feel the same.
John Sterling, his shtick has always been, and he's got an amazing voice. Obviously, he's got a brilliant voice. And his shtick is very popular with Yankees fans, so he's playing to his crowd. He had a lot of shtick prepared for Judge's 60-second home run. It's better on radio because you can't let the pictures do the talking on radio.
Right.
But I still found myself saying, like, hey, man, let it breathe for a second. We're projecting this as being the significant moment, whatever anybody feels about it. Let it be a significant moment for a minute. Just let the crowd, even on the road, there was a crowd response to it. Let that play for just a second, then get back to your shtick. Get back to everything. See if you can't over there pull that up, and we'll play that. We're gonna do a baseball. We're gonna do a baseball segment later in the show, so maybe we'll play that then. Both Michael.
Is Mike Tirico going to be part of that?
Again, I'm so sorry, Mike Tirico.
He's going to be on later, right?
He is going to be on later, but he said if you were here, he would walk off in a fit.
Really?
In a fit. In fact,
he's going to be in the studio?
He said, no, I don't think he's going to make it in the studio. He said there might be punches thrown. So I'm going to have to kick you out. I'm so sorry. That's just
Stan, you can't think of anything you did to him?
Yeah, over the
years.
Really
can't.
The other clip I'd like you to pull up if you can, there is a very embarrassing clip of Russell Wilson from the post-game press conference last night. Before we go to break, I'd love to play that if possible. Yeah. Russell Wilson, a man who is so detached from reality, he's a walking meme at this point in his life. There is just nothing that feels legitimate about him. He feels like a prepackaged, PR-driven vessel of some sort.
Maybe he can start playing for the Yankees next year.
That seems like the perfect fit, if I'm being totally honest. Was it the Orioles that drafted Russell Wilson?
No, it was the Yankees.
I thought somebody else did, too. I thought he was drafted twice.
He may have been drafted in high school, but the most recent team was
the Yankees, right, for
when
sure.
He was already
I feel like there was I feel like there was one other team that drafted Russell Wilson at some point. We'll look into that during break. If we can find it, maybe we'll play it on the other side of break. It's just brutal. It's just so detached from reality. I don't have the words.
It was at the end of it, right?
It was right at the end of the press conference. If you search the words "Let's Ride," I think you'll find it on Twitter. I think you'll find it if you search those words.
I think that's it.
You think you got it? All right.
Skip to the end. Wait, skip to the end.
Well, no, I don't want the whole. There's
like the last 30 seconds. Okay.
I'll send it to you during the break. Okay. I'll send it to you during the break. Today's show also brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland, the best place to watch and bet on all of the games this weekend. And you make a $25 futures bet on the Super Bowl. You'll register that bet, FanDuel.com/SBNAZ, to win 2 tickets to the Super Bowl in Arizona. So you could make a futures bet on the Ravens, and then if they make that run, you could win tickets and be there and maybe win the bet on top of it. It could be one of the most magical moments of your life. Again, get to the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel. Make that $25 bet on the Super Bowl. Register to win the tickets to the Super Bowl. FanDuel.com/SBNAZ. Bo Smolka, PressBox Ravens beat writer, will join us next. This is Glenn Clark Radio. Experience the best in Kamado Grilling, a complete outdoor cooking appliance. The Ginsu Kamado Grill allows anyone to sear, grill, bake, and smoke all types of food. Designed for efficiency and function, the Ginsu Kamado Grill upholds the enduring legacy of the iconic Ginsu brand. The Ginsu Kamado Grill is perfect to cook all year round, is great for parties, and ideal for tailgating with your friends. Reserve your Ginsu Kamado Grill today at ginsugrills.com and get $100 off on your pre-order when you use the promo code TAILGATE. That's ginsugrills.com. Reserve yours today.
Stan the Fan here, welcoming back one of my favorite sponsors, the Costas Inn. And everybody around Baltimore knows the Costas Inn is a great place to go and grab crabs, steaks, salads, soups, whatever's on your mind to eat in person. But did you know that the Costas Inn has upped their game? They are now one of the premier takeout places in Baltimore. Give them a call now to order your food, 410-477-1975. That's the Costas Inn over 4100 North Point Boulevard.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
See Olympic athletes in action as the nation's best horses and riders compete in one of the world's premier equestrian events at the Mars Maryland 5-Star at Fair Hill, presented by Brown Academy, October 13th through 16th in Cecil County. Don't miss the breathtaking excitement of the dynamic cross-country competition or the elegance of dressage and precision of show jumping. There's also great shopping and activities, including a fresh food fest, corgi race, and a beer, wine, and spirits showcase. So come enjoy a beautiful fall day at the Mars Maryland 5-Star at Fair Hill, presented by Brown Advisory, October 13th through 16th. Learn more and buy tickets at maryland5star.us.
The latest edition of PressBox is available now. On the cover, Bo Smolka profiles Ravens tight end Mark Andrews' path to NFL stardom, from his late decision to play the sport full-time through having to overcome type 1 diabetes and more. Also, inside, we introduce you to football players at Maryland, Navy, Towson, and Morgan State. And we give you everything you need to know for betting football this season. PressBox is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores. And you can always find the entire edition, as well as the best daily coverage of demos, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
The Baltimore County Police Department is hiring. Entry-level officers start at close to $59,000 a year with a $10,000 bonus. Some restrictions apply. Plus a great retirement plan, medical, dental, and vision insurance, advancement to specialized units, tuition reimbursement, 15 sick days earned per calendar year, and even further incentives for military members and veterans. If you have a passion for service and want a career for life, visit joinbaltimorecountypd.com or call 410-887-5542. You must be a United States citizen, possess a valid driver's license, and have a high school diploma or GED equivalent. The Baltimore County Police Department is an equal opportunity employer.
If you can't listen or watch live, you can subscribe to the show via Spotify, Amazon, or Apple Podcasts. Leave a 5-star review while you're there. Or, if lying isn't your thing, we'll take a 3.5-star review, too.
Stan the Fan is here with us on a Friday edition of GCR. You heard me in that break talking about the Ginsu Kamado Grill. You can come get a sample of the cooking from the Ginsu Kamado Grill before this week's Ravens game at the Game Day Firehouse, located at the Firefighters Union Hall.
They're using it there?
Yes, just west of the stadium, 1202 Ridgely Street. You can stop by, try some food, and enter to win your own Ginsu Kamado ceramic grill and $500 worth of grilling meats. Again, the Game Day Firehouse, the Firefighters Union Hall, 1202 Ridgely Street, before the game on Sunday night. So this is Russell Wilson. This is just from the end of his – so he does the whole press conference afterwards, and then he's got a message after it's over. I couldn't tell the first couple times I heard it exactly what he said, so I needed to have somebody explain it to me. It's very embarrassing.
Keep believing in. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. Broncos country.
Let's ride. Broncos country, let's ride. They just played the worst game in the history of football.
That's what that was? He just said Broncos
country.
Broncos country.
And then as he walks away from the microphone, he's saying, let's ride.
Okay.
You got it, Russ. You got it, babe. Let's ride. Let's ride to throw in an interception when we're up 9-6.
I got to be honest with you. It is one of the most, and you'll let me know if Bo, if we're hooked up. But it's one of the more shocking developments of the season to me is that Seattle is having no problem scoring points with Geno Smith. And Russell Wilson looks like he's on a respirator.
It's gross.
Yeah.
It's just gross. By the way, if that's how much money Russell Wilson is worth, Lamar Jackson is worth $6 billion. $6 billion. One of the best tweets of the night last night, by the way, came from Kevin Clark of The Ringer, who I don't think I'm related to, but we'll dive into that at some point, said that Amazon should be the one to give Lamar Jackson the $500 million so that whenever there's a bad Thursday night football game, they can just inject him into it. Like if their game is last night, they can just say, "Hey, Lamar,
for an entertainment value,
come on down.
Oh, okay.
Come on down. You play now. In fact, maybe you be quarterback for both teams tonight, and we'll see how it goes." I thought that was a heck of an idea from Kevin Clark.
They
should be the one.
Idea.
They are the ones.
Sort of like a Shohei Ohtani does both things.
Yeah, 100%. He could be the quarterback for both teams on a night like last night. All right, Ravens-Bengals coming up on Sunday night. Let's catch up with our Ravens beat writer here at PressBox. He is our friend, Mr. Bo Smolka. He's back with us here on GCR. Bo, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. Thank you. Fine.
I'm going to ask you the same question we talk about every week. Who's playing on Sunday?
And I'll say the same thing. I don't know. I always seem to guess wrong. I think Ronnie Stanley's going to play this week.
Okay.
I know I've said it before, but it just feels like he said he was close last week. He's been a full practice participant again, and it just feels like I think he'll play. I don't think either Rashad Bateman or Justice Hill will play. And I think those are major issues for this team. And I'll tell you, in August, I would not have said the absence of Justice Hill is a big problem.
Right.
But in October, I think the absence of Justice Hill is a big problem. And because he's shown a little spark. I mean, he's averaged 6 yards a carry. He's given that running game a little bit of juice. But, we saw him go, pop his hamstring or hurt his hamstring at the end of the game last week, and he hasn't practiced. I don't think we'll see him, and I think he'll be a loss. Bateman, John Harbaugh has been kind of vague, predictably, about Bateman, but
what is the nature of Bateman's? But what is exactly his injury? Bateman.
I mean, I don't know, but they described it as a mid-foot, is how John Harbaugh said it. He did something to his foot on a play.
Yep.
He went into the medical tent. He came out of the medical tent. We saw him jogging on the sideline. And if I'm not mistaken, he did go back in the game, but only for a play or two. And then he was not on the field in that last critical stretch at the end of the game. But it was described to us as a mid-foot injury. So take that for what it's worth. But he hasn't practiced this week, and I expect we won't see him.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Well,
so
yeah, but they've got Andy Isabella, Bo, so everything's fine. What are you talking about?
Well, right. So someone else is going to have to step up. And who will that be? Because we've talked for, I don't know, maybe 8 months about who else is going to arise on this receiver group. And to Devin Duvernay's credit, he has.
Yep.
But someone else needs to, because what they're going to do, what the Bills did it too, they just shut down Mark Andrews. And I asked, he had 2 catches for 15 yards, which is very, very Mark Andrews like. And I asked Lamar Jackson on Wednesday, what did they do? How did they do that? And he basically said, well, they always passed him off. It was a linebacker to a safety, then maybe 2. And I mean, if Bateman's not there, that you can expect Andrews is going to get just blanketed. And so who else is going to emerge? Maybe this is the week that Isaiah Likely is rediscovered. I mean, he's turning out so far. He's been very, very quiet after being so dominant in training camp. But is it him? Is it James Prochet, who's another guy that looks great in training camp and then just is completely a non-factor once the games start? Someone else in the passing game is probably going to have to be a guy that we're talking about on next week. And I don't know yet who that will be. But I think the loss of Bateman is, it's notable.
No, it's somebody the teams had to pay attention to. There's no question about it, and that's one less guy that they have to concern themselves with. But obviously, the big story.
Again, I'll say he'll be. I think he'll be listed as questionable.
Right.
But I personally don't think he'll play.
Okay.
Can they make Ronnie Stanley eligible?
Wide receiver, sure. Yeah, maybe it can help there. But, the big storyline of the week has been what happened last week, and specifically what happened 4th and goal. I know you and Dan were talking about it on Believe in Ravens. It's all everybody's been talking about it. I'm venturing the guess that based on the response, despite the fact that Marcus Peters and Bo, admittedly, at first I did not know that this thing with Marcus Peters started at that point. It wasn't until someone else who was at the game said to me, no, go back and look. He's running down the field screaming at John Harbaugh ahead of the 4th down play. That's when all of this stuff started. It wasn't just the Odafe Owe thing. I'm guessing that they say, hey, this is what it is. This is who we are. Nothing's changing. That when we're in these situations, come hell or high water, we're going for it. We're putting our offense back out on the field again.
I think John Harbaugh would do it again. I do. And I think that because 2 things. Number one, as he said, he thinks he has a play that works. And if he thinks the play will work, they're going to run it. I will say, and critics are fair to say, well, he thought that. I view this one kind of like a 2-point play because it was the same spot on the field. They were 2 for 8 in those situations last year, 0 for 1 in that game on Sunday. So you're basically 2 for your last 11 or 2 for 9 that you have. That is worked when you thought it would work. He clearly thought it would work to win the 2 games he tried it on. And it's just not working. Now, why is it not working? That's a fair question. They had Devin Duvernay wide open in the end zone, and the play just didn't work the way they had hoped it would. I will also say that what John Harbaugh said afterwards was, in his mind, the worst thing that would happen would be the Bills would have the ball at the 2-yard line or the 1-yard line in a tie game. They're going to call conservatively, and the Ravens might get the ball back near midfield. At no point did John Harbaugh envision an interception that gave the Bills the ball at the 20. And that changed everything about that sequence. But I also believe that he thought, you know what, the Bills are going to get the ball here, and they're going to go score. I just don't think – I thought it was a tacit indictment of his defense that the Bills are going to go down and get 7, and if they get 7, we better get 7. And you're 2 yards away, and they thought they had a play that would work. I will say, Daniel Wilcox on my podcast partner made a very good point. He just hated the play call. He hated Lamar Jackson in a straight drop pocket drop back on that play, even though you had Duvernay wide open. He's saying, and it's a great point he made. He said, if you're the Ravens and you know you're going for it on 4th down, I'm running left with Lamar Jackson on 3rd down, or running left on 3rd down. So if you don't get in, that ball is on the left hash on 4th down, and now you roll out Lamar Jackson to the right. You give him a run-pass option, rolling to the right, give him the long part of the field. And as Daniel Wilcox said, you built your whole offense around this guy. Let him go be that guy on that play. And it was a really good point. And so the play call was questionable, I think. I wasn't surprised that they did it. And I do believe that if they kick the field goal, which, if they kick the field goal, I think the Bills go down and win the game 27-23. That's what I think would have happened.
I feel the same.
So we'll chew it up all year long, but I think that's what would have happened. And maybe the venom wouldn't be there because we're still complaining that the defense couldn't stop them, but they had the lead and it felt more orthodox. But I do still think they lose the game either way.
I agree with you, Bo, but I'm just curious that point that Daniel Wilcox makes very interesting, the sequencing and orchestration of plays. In other words, do you think the decision to go for it isn't made until they don't make it on 3rd down? Or are they thinking ahead of,
I think many times in the game they're thinking ahead. I think you figure if it's 3rd and let's say you're 3rd and 5 from the other team's 41. Yeah, we have 2 plays to get the 1st down here. We're going. It's in our minds it's 4 downs here. And maybe you call a 3rd down play knowing you're going for it on 4th down. In that specific situation, I don't know. I mean, possibly if Harbaugh had that in his mind, they should have been thinking that way.
Yeah.
It sounds so. I don't know if they only decided then once they got to the 2. But remember, they had the ball at the 1, and then Dobbins got clobbered back to the 4. So that was a huge play in that game. They had, I think it was 2nd goal at the 1 or first at the 1, and then Dobbins gets hammered. And so there's another failure to score from the 1 yard line, which we also saw in the Miami game.
That's a different.
All of that comes into play.
That's a different level of criticism than just the decision to go for it. Is structuring your plays in such a way that you have that option there, and I think Wilcox makes an excellent point.
Bo, to your point.
Yeah, it was really interesting.
Yeah,
go ahead.
And Bo, I think it's totally possible the Bills go back down and score a touchdown, but we still come back to the clock. That they can't milk the clock to go try to score a touchdown. They have to go try to score the touchdown because you can't assume a touchdown. So, eternally, my forever problem with this will be you presented an opportunity for a team to run the clock out without you ever seeing the ball again, and that's. I'll never be able to get on board with a scenario where the risk factor is we never see the ball again during the course of a game, whereas if you go ahead, a team has to go score the points. They can't assume they're going to punch a touchdown in at the end of the game, even from the 1 yard line. They've got to go try to score, and that can give you time back. That's my only issue with the, hey, they would have gone down and scored a touchdown anyway scenario.
It's totally fair. And like I said, I think John Harbaugh thought at the very worst, the Bills are taking over in a tie game at their own 2. They're going to be fairly conservative deep in their own end zone, deep in their own territory. And if we can get a stop, they have to punt us back to midfield. We have maybe a minute, and we have the best kicker in the league, and we can win the game that way. He did specifically point out that exact scenario on Monday and said that was also going through his mind. And I don't think he ever fathomed that the Bills would end up with the ball at the 20.
No, it certainly changed things. Yep, there's no doubt.
Yeah.
We half jokingly mentioned Andy Isabella. That's not the only new player that shows up in Baltimore this week. I'm sure everybody's fired up. They got A.J. Klein fever. I think the reality is, much like we've seen in past years with L.J. Ford or Josh Bynes or Josh Bynes or Josh Bynes again, the Ravens might really need A.J. Klein to step in and offer something.
I just think the Ravens inside running back inside linebacker group right now is a big problem, and I think it's the biggest position of need right now. And Patrick Queen has played really well at times and really poorly at times, And Josh Bynes is just who he is at this point. He's an aging linebacker doing his best. But when you watch them play, that linebacker group is not performing well. And the problem is they don't trust anyone behind them on their depth chart to play because Christian Welch and Delshon Phillips and these other guys, Josh Ross got hurt. But their other inside linebackers are not even playing a snap on defense. They're only playing on special teams. So you've signed these players that you effectively say they're good special team players, but we don't trust them to play defense. We don't trust them to play linebacker. And now when your other linebackers aren't playing well, you don't really have a lot of options. So, and I know Malik Harrison was basically drafted as an inside linebacker. They've been using him as an outside linebacker more because they hadn't had the numbers as edge rushers.
Right.
So the depth there and the play level there has both been lacking. So I think he will have to play or will play. But yeah, it's not been, the linebacker play has not been good, period.
There's no doubt about it. There's no getting around it. Bo, look, the 2 games against the Bengals last year were ugly. And I'm dismissive of the second one because by that point, those weren't really the Ravens. But the first one, that was Lamar. I mean, that was the Ravens. And it was a butt kicking. I don't know how much these teams have changed from that point to this point, and I don't know how much one game matters in looking at it, but I think there might be room to have some concern about the matchup for the Ravens when you're lining up against Joe Burrow and those wide receivers, and while the Bengals maybe have a weak offensive line, I just don't know that the Ravens are the team that's ready to take advantage of that.
I agree with you. I don't think it's a good matchup at all. And you're right. They did. I know the second game, the Ravens were down almost everyone in their secondary, and they didn't have Lamar Jackson. They didn't have Tyler Huntley. Remember, Josh Johnson started that game at quarterback.
That's right.
The second game you can kind of I kind of dismiss. But the first game, and if you remember in the first game, early in the third quarter, the Ravens actually took the lead, and then the Bengals scored the last 28 points, and it looked like by the fourth quarter they had broken the will of the Ravens. There was a long touchdown run late in the game. It looked like one of the very few times it looked to me like a Ravens team under John Harbaugh had just kind of quit. But in that game, remember, third quarter, Jamar Chase catches about a 5-yard slant, and he slips out of a tackle of Humphrey and Elliott and then Clark, and he's 80 yards for a touchdown. And that could happen on any play in this game because this team, they need to tackle. Now, the one big thing would be that Marcus Peters did not play last year. I will say he showed up on the injury report with a quad injury yesterday. I was not out there, but that is something to bear watching today because when they show up with a quad injury, when they show up on a Thursday injury report, it tends to mean they got hurt during practice. So it's going to be very interesting to see. That will bear watching later. But the Ravens, the other problem is between Higgins and Chase and Tyler Boyd, the famous Ravens, New Year's Eve playoff killer.
Yep.
These are 3 really, really good receivers. And the Ravens, so far as we've seen, have not been able to put a situation where they have 3 really, really good defensive backs all playing together at the same time. Brandon Stevens was played almost every snap as the slot corner last week, so I think he's going to be a really important player. But these defensive breakdowns have happened in every game, and they happened again against Buffalo. Stephon Diggs was wide open in the end zone, and he didn't score on the play, but afterwards Hamilton and Williams and Peters are all kind of looking at each other, talking like, what happened there? I mean, if that happens again, it's another touchdown. And so these communication problems are just something that cannot continue. And this receivers group is so dangerous that if you don't tackle, and if you have miscommunication problems, you are in deep trouble against these guys. Now they will. Joe Burrow's been sacked 16 times, second most in the league. So there is an opportunity there, but this team, again, has not shown the ability to generate consistent pressure. Maybe they can, and maybe Burrow's the guy they finally get. This Bengals line is the one they finally get right against. But I agree with you. I just don't think this is a good matchup for this Ravens team at all.
Were you encouraged by the play of Jean-Pierre Paul?
I was surprised he played so much. I mean, he played. I figured, they signed him early in the week, 10 to 15 rush snaps in obviously passing situations. He was out there for all but about 12 snaps.
Right.
I mean, played a ton. So, and John Harbaugh even said he was surprised how much he played. So, I mean, I think it's encouraging because it says he's in shape to play now, which is what John Harbaugh said they need to have. And he's a guy that could also have an impact this week. And because what it does is it also keeps them from having to have Calais Campbell on the field every down, which he was the week before. That's not going to last, and he's going to be on the shelf soon if you keep that up. So, it's encouraging, and I think he's a guy that could also be a big impact this week. But, again, these edge rushers, maybe even someone inside, Matt Abike or Travis Jones, can create trouble. But they're going to have to generate some trouble with that, with the pass rush, because that seems to be where you can get at the Bengals.
Bill, I wanted to ask you a quick question away from the game. You tweeted something the other day at Smolka on Twitter about the career and sort of the maturity of Jimmy Smith. If you could refresh my memory a little bit, when he was drafted by Ozzie Newsome, there were all kinds of issues about his character, but they never seemed to really pan out. There was never, that I can recall.
So he had, if I go back to his Colorado days, I believe he had I think it was a marijuana thing, or there was something with him in college that he even said at his press conference. He said, look, I had some orange flags. He called them orange flags.
Okay.
He kind of chuckled. But he had character questions about him coming out of Colorado. And so a lot of people thought he would have been a higher draft pick than he was, given his size and his ability. So he drops to the Ravens. They sign him, and he even owned up. He said he was a little immature. He had a couple of police incidents when he was early in his career. He had a suspension, personal conduct policy suspension at one point in his career. So he had some things that came up. But when he spoke at his his retirement press conference, he was so genuine and candid and authentic about owning that and saying he was very grateful to the Ravens for sticking with him when he was a young, immature kid, and he thought the Ravens really set him on the right path. Their patience with him was very grateful, and he looked and sounded like this wiser, older person, and you could see that. I started covering the Ravens his rookie year. So I'd seen his whole career, and it was very interesting to watch him at this place in his life because he had really, really matured, and he was very grateful to the Ravens. And he also said, look, that was one reason why he never had any desire to play anywhere else. He had the famous quote where he said, I don't want to just go to somewhere like Cleveland for a year, and all the Browns fans got up an arm. But his whole point was that this is always where he wanted to be. And if he was going to re-sign anywhere for that last year, it was always going to be here. So he was very grateful for this organization, for their loyalty. And then he also said he was grateful to the fans for their loyalty. And he was frustrated over his career because he got hurt way more than he wanted to. He missed way more games than he wanted to. But when he was on the field, he was a really good player. He made the key plays to win the Super Bowl. But it was very interesting to see his development into the person that he became by the time he finished. He was, like I said, he was very genuine and very authentic at that retirement news conference, and I felt happy for him.
I was very touched by what you wrote about him, Bill.
At B Smolka on Twitter is how you follow him. PressBoxOnline.com is where you see his stuff. Of course, the podcast is Believe in Ravens with him and Dan Wilcox. And if you haven't picked up the print issue of PressBox, you got only a bit more than a week to do so with Mark Andrews on the cover.
They're hard to find right
life.
now.
Oh, they've been very popular. Very hard to find. Bo Smolka, appreciate you, sir. We will talk to you again next Friday. Have a great week, all right?
All right, thank you. Take care.
It's PressBox Ravens beat writer Bo Smolka joining us here on GCR. Stan the Fan Charles is in studio with us. When we come back in, we're going to talk some baseball. We'll talk a little bit about the end of the season for the Orioles, and we will preview the MLB Playoffs, which get underway in 56 minutes.
Really?
Yes. It's the baseball all day thing.
Can I leave when Tirico comes on?
If you'd like
so I can
to.
Get home?
If you'd like, you know what? We could maybe work that out, that you could do it that way. Actually, honestly, we could make it work that it would be
that's okay.
totally fine,
that's
honestly,
okay.
if you wanted to do that.
That's okay.
We'll talk a little baseball when we come back in. It is a Friday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. The Baltimore County Police Department is hiring. Entry-level officers start at close to $59,000 a year with a $10,000 bonus. Some restrictions apply. Plus a great retirement plan, medical, dental, and vision insurance, advancement to specialized units, tuition reimbursement, 15 sick days earned per calendar year, and even further incentives for military members and veterans. If you have a passion for service and want a career for life, visit joinbaltimorecountypd.com or call 410-887-5543. 888-848-9242. You must be a United States citizen, possess a valid driver's license, and have a high school diploma or GED equivalent. The Baltimore County Police Department is an equal opportunity employer.
Come experience Maryland's #1 sportsbook this NFL season at the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel, the ultimate place for any sports enthusiast. Take advantage of our 24/7 kiosks, massive video screens, and watch all the action from the best seat in the house. With more money paid out than anyone around, make every moment more at the new FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover, Maryland. Please play responsibly. Gambling problem? Please call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit mdgamblinghelp.org.
Glory Days Grill's Oktoberfest menu is now running. It's one of their most popular seasonal menus all year. It features the chicken schnitzel, the Oktoberfest brewer's platter, the brewer's sausage sandwich, the Bavarian burger with a pretzel bun, the cheddar ale soup, the slam dunk pretzels, and the apple cobbler. All of these meals pair well with Oktoberfest beers and Angry Orchard on draft. Dine in or order online at glorydaysgrill.com and pick up your favorites to take home. Glory Days Grill, great food, good sports.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Have you been to Guilford Hall Brewery? Located in Baltimore's Station North neighborhood, Guilford Hall Brewery breaks the craft brew mold with their great handcrafted microbrews and amazing Bavarian-style food selections. Join Guilford Hall 7 days a week for Orioles, Ravens, and all of your favorite college games. Make plans now to watch the big games, play trivia, or bring your dog for Yappy Hour. They even have free valet service on Friday and Saturday nights. Go to guilfordhall.com for a complete schedule of events, beer listings, and food and drink specials. We'll see you at Guilford Hall Brewery.
Tune in to Simply the Bets every Tuesday and Weekend at Bookies every other Thursday at 11:40 a.m. And if you really have nothing better to do, keep listening to this show too.
Back in here on GCR, Stan the Fan Charles is with us on a Friday edition of the program. Stan, you've done a couple of shows this week.
Yeah, Ross Grimsley and I had our managing editor, Luke Jackson, on, who's a pretty astute baseball observer, and we kind of recapped the Orioles season, looked ahead at what they might be after for 2023, and also previewed a little bit of our postseason, how we see it shaping up.
And also last night?
Last night I had Marty Bowman, who's with Classic Communications with the 5-star event, and the lovely and talented Kaylee Collette, who used to be the events manager, for the first year.
Right.
She now works for the U.S.
Had a long
amateur.
run.
Long run.
Yeah.
And she is actually an event equestrian.
Wow.
I mean, she rides, but she's also in marketing for the U.S. Equestrian Association.
So obviously getting ready for the 5-star next week.
Yep, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. If you have any interest in going, folks, the way to do it is go to Maryland, the number 5, Maryland5star.us. All the ticket information is there. It's really, this is really a fun family or a couples thing to do. Great eating venues, shopping venues. And the day to go, I'm not telling people not to go Thursday, Friday, or Sunday, but the day to go is Saturday.
Okay.
It's the cross-country event.
Okay.
Which is really pretty spectacular.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. So you can find both those shows right now, facebook.com/PressBoxSports, youtube.com/PressBoxOnline. Let's clean a couple things up really quickly. One, I was correct. Russell Wilson was once drafted by the Baltimore Orioles.
You were correct.
I had that right. He was then later drafted by the Rangers.
No, the Rockies.
The Rockies.
That's what it said online.
How did he end up with the Rangers, though?
I vaguely remember the Rangers.
He definitely ended up with the Rangers at some point. Well, we know he was traded from the Rangers to the Yankees. It's amazing that a guy that was never playing baseball was involved with this.
Well, because you know what he used to tell his teammates.
Yeah, let's ride.
Let's ride.
Yeah, let's ride. So I had that part correct, and then this is I didn't send. I don't think I sent them the Michael Kay call. This is the John Sterling call of Aaron Judge's 60-second home run from the other night on WFAN in New York.
Here's the 1-1.
Swung on. There it goes. Deep left. It is high. It is far. It is gone. Number 62 to set the new American League record. Aaron Judge hits his 62nd. All the Yankees out of the dugout to greet him. Just think of it. 3 Yankee right fielders. The Babe hitting 60 and 27. The Jolly Roger hitting 61 and 61. And now Aaron Judge hits his 62nd home run, the most home runs any American leaguer has hit in a single season. And the American League has been alive for 120 years. This is Judgment Day. Case closed.
Had to get all the shtick in. Had to get all of it in. Look,
I'm just curious because I was looking at Mike's computer. That thing that he pulled up is called Sterling King.
Yes, they have a lot of they're doing this now with radio broadcasters.
Really?
Where
they have a little camera
yes,
like our
essentially camera? For this reason, that if for some reason something crazy happens during the course of a game, obviously the historic things, they knew this was coming, but a lot of other teams, just in case for some reason,
a no-hitter
or somebody turns a triple play or just something ridiculous that they can then put this out on.
Or a fan runs out naked.
Yes, exactly right. And now we've got Kevin Harlan broadcasting the drunk fan on the field, which is always great.
Work that out with Kevin Brown.
To you be the drunk fan on the field for
Not
him?
Drunk. I said nothing about drunk.
Oh, okay. Just naked.
Naked.
Right.
Naked.
That's all you want. The call is fine, but my God, it was 60 seconds, correct? He had 60 seconds worth of shtick that he needed to get in.
Case closed.
And by the way, that Kay used case closed as well on his call of it. Like, he had to get all Judgment Day, case closed.
The Jolly
Roger, the Babe. And in a way, for some reason, I give John Sterling more of a pass because, like, that's just who he is.
Yeah.
It's just what
that's not very different than any home run he called.
Correct.
Yeah.
Like, he always does the Stantonian blast or the whatever nonsense, the Grandy Man can. Like, he's always
my favorite
done
one.
that.
Rich Dubroff and I love the G-Man. G-Man Choi used to play for. The G-Man is a He-Man.
Wow, I did not know. Look, I've done some dumb calls in my day, but that one's kind of up there. Yeah. That one's up there. All right, Stan the Fan, baseball season came to a close this week. The regular season, the Orioles season.
When do the playoffs start?
They start in 48 minutes.
That's right.
48 minutes as a wild card weekend. Griffin and I had a conversation about this the other day. I know for guys like you'll be hyper-focused on baseball this weekend. Most of the country spends their weekend with football. I'm a little confused as to why Major League Baseball set this up, that they would do an entire round of the playoffs all encapsulated within a weekend.
I think it had to do with adding the extra games because of the lockout. In other words, I think that in future, the first round would probably be on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday.
Okay. That would be more ideal if that were the case. I thought that they kept that's why they forced all the double headers, was that they were trying to keep the schedule.
They had to squeeze more games in so it didn't run till November 15th something like that.
I know that. I thought that that was the reason.
This was part of the jigsaw puzzle of not having it go too long, getting the players 162 games
and not playing.
Was the double headers and adding these 3 games the last week. Normally the season ends on a Sunday and they start all the games at 4:00. So so everybody's
playing at the same time. Yeah. Exactly right. I want to do a quick sort of summary of the Orioles, and then we'll talk about the playoffs. You and I kind of talked about this yesterday. I'm writing a column for the next print issue. This season to me, I'm not moving the goalposts. I said once they started turning things around, I said I'm not going to declare playoffs or bust. They play a meaningful game in Baltimore on Labor Day. This is a successful season.
Right.
They did.
And they, in fact, played about 2.5 more weeks of meaningful games.
Semi-meaningful. Yeah. I mean, it started to fall apart on Labor Day.
Fall apart. There's no question about it.
That Blue Jays series was the death of them. Going back to it, they never recovered from how things
But the games that really turned out to be the ones that took them out of it were the 2 out of 3 losses to Boston.
Well, that put the final nail in the coffin.
The first 2 against Detroit.
That
because the other teams were cooperating.
Yeah, they were keeping them alive.
Yeah.
Yes, but correct. But this really goes back to that week. And
no question about it.
It just started to fall apart. I'm good with all that, and I also good with the idea that it was never about this year, right? It was always this was. Just icing on the cake, the fact that the Orioles were a little more competitive this season. I'm just struggling with next year. I'm struggling with the number of people that are saying, look out next year. Because I'm still struggling with how much of this particularly position player group I really believe is at the core of a World Series contending roster. And my answer at the moment is it's 2 guys, and they were both rookies this year. I'm not sure. I think that ultimately someone that from the rest of this group will be part of it.
Right.
But I don't know who it is, and I don't have a lot of confidence about that. And I don't think they're going to overhaul the entire group this offseason.
No, there's not going to be like Hayes, Mullins, Santander, Mountcastle. Probably 3 of the 4 will be here next year.
Correct.
There'll probably be 1 guy that goes. But I'll tell you where I think the club can make its biggest improvement. Because they believe in Colton Cowser, because they believe in Jordan Westberg, I think the chances that they really do something that's going to really excite the fan base in the pitching category, and then you add in Rodriguez and whom they add on to Kramer, Means eventually, maybe Lyles is still here, and Bradish. And suddenly...
Although there's a strong argument for both being back in the rotation.
But suddenly... Well, both will be here, I think.
I don't think he'll be. I think the numbers
rotation.
game, but by the way, between Bradish and Voth, who
pitched better.
Yes,
he had 17 starts of 3 runs or less until his last start. But I think they're going to really try and win with pitching, defense, and speed.
Right.
And give sort of the way we say with Michael Kay and John Sterling. Let it breathe. I think they want to, before they just make wholesale changes, I think they're going to have to give up something to make the trade I envision for a pitcher. Maybe they get an aging free agent bat like a J.D. Martinez for 2 years or a Jose Abreu for 2 years. And, it's funny with Abreu, they may have to make the same decision with Abreu that Dan Duquette wasn't willing to make with Cruz 7 years ago, which is to give him a 3rd year.
Right.
Well, in that case, it was a 4th year.
Yeah, right.
But this would be probably a 3-year deal to get a hitter. So I think a really dependable bat that you can count on.
Legitimate middle of the lineup.
Yep. And 1 or 2 starting pitchers.
That's and what I end up saying, and I don't want to give – boy, we're a week away from the print column. In my column, I'm going to say I'm fascinated by this offseason. Because I think
it's an interesting offseason.
I think a lot of people are just saying, hey, we're looking forward to them spending money. I'm really far more looking forward to figuring out who they think is a part of this and who they don't think is a part of this. Because at different times during the year, we sold ourselves on, dude, Austin Hayes could be a Nick Markakis-like piece of the future for this franchise.
June 1st this year, it looked like he was about to be that player.
I was ready to extend him. I was ready to invest in Austin Hayes. And now I'm not certain that I want him to be part of the solution next year.
Yeah.
Ramon Urias at one point in July, we were talking about man, I don't know, man. This guy could be special. Maybe this guy is legitimate. Maybe this guy is the real deal. But I get to the end of the season, and I find myself saying it about none of them. I don't feel strongly about.
How about Mateo from, say, about July 15th to August 20th?
Look like you had to have him be your
like
shortstop.
Ricky Henderson almost. And then the last 5-6 weeks of the season looked very lost at the plate.
100%.
But he's an electric
But yes,
player.
offers a lot defensively and with speed. It's not like I want to run Jorge Mateo out. I'm just not. I'm not committing to Jorge Mateo at the moment as being.
What type of trade value do you think he would have if you believed that Henderson or Westberg could
I just think his age makes it tough. You know what I mean? Like, he's not 22. He's not.
But he's not 31.
He's not 30. He's not 31. But I think it's hard for. I think at this point it's hard to convince someone that there's still a next step for Jorge Mateo.
Right.
That at this point he's deep enough into his career that it's hard to project a season where he's hitting 255 all season long. I think it's more and more difficult to think that there's still that level to come for Jorge Mateo. I think teams would always be interested in what he brings to the table, but I think there's a limit to what you get for that. I'm not.
Well, again, I'm talking about suppose it was
if you're throwing him in with
throwing a prospect,
right?
And it's Austin Hayes.
Right. If it was Mateo, Norby, and
Norby, I don't think they'll give up. I really don't.
I buy that. I buy that. I mean, at some point they do have a glut, though.
They have to give up somebody.
Correct.
And Mike Elias said that at his year-end press conference, which I couldn't attend because of the Jewish holiday.
Right.
You know.
Or they have to move on from Mountcastle, or they have to. If they move on from Mountcastle, then there's a first base spot that becomes available for someone like Norby in future years. But if they're not moving on from Mountcastle, how many infield positions do you have for Westberg, Henderson, Ortiz perhaps at some point, Norby, and obviously Jackson Holiday down the pipeline, right? Like, you're going to run out of, and I'm eliminating Jorge Mateo in that conversation and Urias in that conversation. I'm not trying to make. I don't want it to sound like I'm doom and gloom. I'm not. I'm very encouraged by where the Orioles are headed.
Yeah, it's just hard to project that next year is going to pan out the way we think it will now.
I need to see what they're doing this offseason, who they look at and say, this guy's got more. We're just scratching the surface of this next group of guys. The top two we're all on board with. We're all on board with Rutschman and Henderson. Everyone is on board. Those guys are centerpieces of a future championship contending team. Who else internally from this group did they believe is part of it? Did they look at Ryan Mountcastle and say, we think he's more the guy from 2021 than he was the guy in 2022, and we are committed to him as a middle-of-the-order bat moving forward? Did they internally believe that? And the guy who plays a solid first base, obviously, on top of it. That's what I'm more intrigued by when it comes to the Orioles going on this offseason.
I've got, at the peak of his career, people used to say, in Ozzie we trust. Mm-hmm. I've got a lot of trust in
you've
Mike
talked
Elias,
about that a lot. I still need to see, that, right? Like, that's the one thing. His greatest accomplishment to this point as a Major League Baseball general manager is winning 83 games, right? I still need to see that he's the guy that can shepherd you into really competing against very good teams in the American League East. Now, that being said, their playoffs will start in 37 minutes. They get underway. 37 minutes. How quick can you get out to Pikesville from here is the question.
Boy, if I didn't have to sit here to talk to Mike Tirico.
Again, bad, just terrible news. Boy, and I gotta be honest.
He can't do the show?
No, he wants to do the show. He just said, again, if Stan the Fan is there, I will burn the building down, which I thought was aggressive and unnecessary, frankly.
Burn the building down? He's not even in the building.
I understand that. Yeah. Well, he might be working in cahoots with MC Ernest. I'm not sure.
Or maybe the Oath Keepers.
Oh, God. Anyway, your gut going into this thing, do you have a team that right now you say, if I'm right, this is the team I believe is going to win the World Series? And then I want to present the secondary. Yeah. Is there something you're particularly rooting for? This is always fascinating to me. I think right now there's, obviously it's disappointing the Mets fell apart, but there's the Buck storyline that a lot of Orioles fans will embrace. There's, of course, the Trey Mancini thing that Orioles fans will embrace.
And Dusty Baker.
And
he doesn't have
it's not a local connection, but I felt that way a year ago about Dusty Baker. But yet, for a lot of people, it's still the Astros, and they still can't feel good about them. Do you have a gut feeling, and do you have anything that you're emotionally attaching yourself to about these playoffs?
I think one of three teams will win the World Series, and the Dodgers deserve to be a prohibitive favorite going in. It's just amazing how much depth they have in this organization. I watched carefully Craig Kimbrell pitching in the last month of the season, and I'm going, geez whiz, they're going into the the postseason with him as their closer. And all of a sudden, they brought Tommy Canley back. Remember him from the White Sox?
Vaguely, yes.
And the Yankees? He's been injured for 2 years. He looked really, really good.
Okay.
And I'm not saying he can take over for Kimbrel,
right,
but he can certainly add some depth to the post to the late game situation with the Dodgers. I think the Dodgers deserve to be an overwhelming favorite. If you ask me who else can win it, I think Atlanta can win it. Their chances would be greatly enhanced if Spencer Strider is available to them by the second or third round. Here's a guy who struck out 202 batters in 131 innings. Unbelievable. And I think the Astros, of course, with their pitching, can win. My personal favorite would be the Buck Showalter story.
Yep.
I wanted to believe that they were the team. I wrote about it in June in one of my complimentary pieces I do with my baseball power rankings. I didn't think then that they had enough offense to withstand Scherzer and DeGrom not being spectacular. And in the last 3 weeks, I don't think Scherzer and DeGrom have been spectacular. They've been good. I mean, they're capable every time they go out. They can.
No, it's not like they haven't got their brains beat in.
But they're not good enough to match up against the best pitching on the other side. Those are the three teams I like. Atlanta, Houston, the Dodgers. Dodgers are, to me, deserve to be kind of the overwhelming favorite. I'm looking forward to the Braves versus the Dodgers. I got to think it's going to be an amazing series. If somehow the Mets get into the final championship series, that would be a great series as well.
I'm in a weird place with the emotional side of it, right? Because I do think there's a part of me that says I have every reason to believe that Steve Cohen's going to keep the Mets competitive, that he's hell-bent on that thing. And, it might end up costing the Orioles something that they won. It's one of the I've been so reluctant this year to believe the Carlos Rodon thing because at the end of the day, he's going to be the most desirable pitcher on the market.
He's not coming to Baltimore.
We all want Carlos Rodon, but so does everyone else in baseball, and those guys are going to be willing to spend more money than the Orioles. Steve Cohen's going to walk in and say, sure, hell, sign Rodon too, right?
Yep.
So there's a small part of me that says, I don't know where Trey Mancini is going to be next year. I don't know if he's going to have another opportunity to win a World Series. It would be really special to me to see Trey Mancini win a World Series.
Have no problem with that at all.
And I think from the emotional side of things, that weighs a little. As much as I would love, I've talked a lot about Buck's a World Series away from being a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
It's a big deal if he could just win one World Series.
Dusty, in my opinion.
I agree with that.
Yeah. That would be an intriguing matchup if the two of them ended up in the World Series.
Oh, my God.
Buck against
That'd be a really
Dusty
great story.
Baker.
It would be a really great story.
Can you imagine that the two of them were sitting on the outside looking in for a couple years? That certain
watching
teams,
all these other dudes, right?
Rehiring Tony La Russa after he hadn't managed a game in 11 years. Charlie Montoya gets hired.
Sure.
It's pretty staggering that teams didn't think, hey, this guy can make a huge
it's really
difference.
weird. You know what tends to go along with these guys wherever they go? Winning.
Yes.
It's really strange how that works.
Yes.
Wherever these guys go, winning seems to walk right there with them, wherever it is they are. And
My one sleeper team that I've got my eye on is the Cleveland Indians because they do that thing so great late in the game. They're untouchable. Emmanuel Claus is just absolutely phenomenal. And Karinchuk has come back to be almost unhittable as well. So if they're leading 2-1 or 3-2, it's almost turn out the lights, But it's hard to imagine their offense doing enough. But Shane Bieber, former Cy Young Award winner, actually had his best ERA this season that he's had as a pro.
Hey, last one for you. Manager of the Year in the American League.
As much as I love Brandon Hyde, love him as a person, thought he did a terrific job, I think Scott Servais gets it from me because breaking the longest playoff drought in the game right now, to me,
in all of American professional sports.
In all of America, I think he's been there a while. I think you got to get the rose-colored glasses. it wouldn't be a shock to me if Hyde gets it, but I think Service gets it.
I mean, look, man, you go from 110 losses to 83 wins.
Yeah.
Like, you're definitely deserving of recognition for it.
Yeah.
But to your point, I have no problem at all. I think there will be people in this city that think it's a travesty if Brandon Hyde. I don't agree with that. I agree
I saw
with
my
you.
buddy Bruce Cunningham today. Says 31. There should be an investigation of Brandon Hyde. Give me a break.
Yeah, stop. I mean, I like Brandon Hyde.
I love Brandon Hyde.
Ironically, there are other people in town that are ready for Brandon Hyde to go. Like, ironically, there are people in
Brandon
town.
Hyde.
I am not in that camp whatsoever.
Look, I love Buck Showalter as a manager, and I'm very fond of Buck Showalter. Buck Showalter comes with an agenda that is Buck Showalter's. Brandon Hyde is transparent. What you see is what you get. There's no hidden agendas. He's very open and honest.
When we come back in, we will hear. You know what? Why don't we do Young Utes first? I mean, would you really like to roll out the? Because we can coordinate this.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't. Seriously, it doesn't matter.
All right.
I'm not going to sit and watch 12 games of baseball over.
There are a lot of people who will be. There are a lot of people who are just.
I will
nothing
go home.
But
I will go home and watch the last 7 innings of today's first game.
Sure.
I'm good.
All right. Well, then we'll talk to Mike Tirico. Then we'll get Young Utes.
Oh, so Tirico is talking to me.
Not to you. Again, we are going to have to. I don't know what
I
we're going
to
to do
go
with
in
you.
The other room?
Somewhere.
Okay.
Somewhere we're going to have to
Can
stash
I go back
you.
in the closet?
Oh, God. We're not going to do that. We're going to talk to Mike Tirico. Then we'll get Young Utes. Today's show also brought to you by this one's brought to you by the Maryland 5-Star. We've been talking about it all throughout the morning. Awesome event coming up next week in Cecil County. Come see Olympic athletes in action as the nation's best horses and riders compete in one of the world's premier equestrian events. It's the Mars Maryland 5-Star at Fair Hill, presented by Brown Advisory, October 13th through 16th in Cecil County. Cecil County. Shoo!
Hey, last
Cecil
night, by
County.
the way, we'll finish it up. Then I got one quick thing.
No, that's
when you hear the term Mars.
Yes.
I asked Kaylee Collette that.
Right.
I said,
I thought they closed a few years ago. I thought they were gone.
I said, do you know Mars is the company that owns M&M's?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's still.
I absolutely. I'll forever associate it with Tom Davis.
And she didn't. She's probably not from Baltimore. She go, really? There was a. This is the company that owns M&M and
100%. But yes, forever, I will associate Mars with going to the grocery store and getting some ice cream and some cake on a Sunday. I 100% will associate with that. All right, Mike Tirico's next. Glenn Clark Radio. Have you been to Guilford Hall Brewery? Located in Baltimore's Station North neighborhood, Guilford Hall Brewery breaks the craft brew mold with their great handcrafted microbrews and amazing Bavarian-style food selections. Join Guilford Hall 7 days a week for Orioles, Ravens, and all of your favorite college games. Make plans now to watch the big games, play trivia, or bring your dog for Yappy Hour. They even have free valet service on Friday and Saturday nights. Go to guilfordhall.com for a complete schedule of events, beer listings, and food and drink specials. We'll see you at Guilford Hall Brewery.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
What's up, everyone? This is Tyus Bowser, and I'm excited to tell you that I'm back for Season 2 of the Tyus Bowser Show in partnership with PressBox and Great Ace Memorabilia. Join us on Tuesday nights throughout the season as I'll be heading all over town with my special guests. And of course, our co-hosts, Glenn and Rita. Or is it Rita and Glenn? What is it? I look forward to meeting you guys and talking a little bit about football and a lot about life. And if you happen to miss the show, you can now catch a replay Friday nights on 105.7 The Fan. Get all of your details for the Tyus Bowser Show right now at PressBoxOnline.com/Bowser.
It's brought to you by Maryland Vascular Specialists and the all-new Ginsu Kamado Grill.
The 2022 baseball season is in full swing, and the future is brighter than ever for your Baltimore Orioles. I'm Paul Valley.
And I'm Zach Goodman.
And together we bring you the Bat Around every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon with everything you need to know about the Orioles and baseball as a whole. From veterans like Cedric Mullins, Austin Hayes, and Ryan Mountcastle,
to young stars like Adley Rutschman, Grayson Rodriguez, and DL Hall.
We've got you covered for every game, every pitch,
and every debut.
You can watch us at youtube.com/PressBoxOnline and Facebook.com/PressBoxSports, or you can listen at PressBoxOnline.com/radio. So join us live on the Bat Around every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon right here at PressBox Sports.
Glory Days Grill's Oktoberfest menu is now running. It's one of their most popular seasonal menus all year. It features the chicken schnitzel, the Oktoberfest brewer's platter, the brewer's sausage sandwich, the Bavarian burger with a pretzel bun, the cheddar ale soup, the slam dunk pretzels, and the apple cobbler. All of these meals pair well with Oktoberfest beers and Angry Orchard on draft. Dine in or order online at glorydaysgrill.com and pick up your favorites to take home. Glory Days Grill, great food, good sports.
Check out Jeremy Kahn's daily picks at PressBoxOnline.com as he tries to find you daily winners. And speaking of winners, here's a man who once won a media curling contest, and I don't think anything else. He's Glenn Clark.
I've always found that a bit offensive, if I'm being honest. By the way, the video is out today of Draymond Green sucker punching Jordan Poole. I have no idea how the Warriors keep Draymond Green around. It is shocking.
Really?
It is one of the. Clearly, they were hoping that this didn't get out and they could just sort of keep it internal. And
what prompted it?
We don't know enough of the details of that. So the video, they're just standing in a drill. Draymond Green is away from Jordan Poole, and then he starts moving closer towards him and Jordan Poole gives him a shove.
Okay.
Just a shove. And Draymond Green comes back and cocks and fires. Green gets in his face, gets right up on him, Poole shoves him off, and then Green goes right after him. I mean,
Well, we don't know what,
Who knows? Somebody said something, man. It's more like Draymond
probably said something about his mother.
Might have, but Draymond Green was so bad in the playoffs last year that, Jordan Poole is the guy they need. They need that guy to stay around. This is a really...
I'll tell you the guy who's going to have a monster season this year is Wiseman.
Yeah?
James Wiseman.
I mean, okay. All right.
I wrote about it for my
props. Yeah, we're doing some prop picks.
$50 gets me $3,200.
Whoa.
Most improved player.
Whoa. I went with a Rookie of the Year bet that was at plus 450.
I did too. I did a very simple one.
Hang on. I'm writing my pick is this guy out west. I'm picking that guy as my Rookie of the Year.
Keegan Murray.
You weren't supposed to say
Keegan Aiken?
Keegan Aiken.
Thank
you, Stan.
I don't know why you were writing it down.
Because I didn't want to pick up the print issue of PressBox to find out what my choice is.
I think somebody today is really going to remember
No,
that.
but it's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to tease that we want people to go pick up the print issue of PressBox to find out that, yes, Keegan Murray is my pick for Rookie of the Year at plus 450 with the Sacramento
I took
Kings.
a Rookie of the Year, too.
Yeah?
I won't write it down.
Thank you.
I won't write it down.
Well, you have to pick up the print issue of PressBox in order to find out.
I went with the favorite, folks.
Oh, well, that's a
I
little
thought
boring.
it's a pretty...
I always forget you're a Duke guy. God, I always forget that. Yeah. All right. We had to do this a little bit earlier on because of his schedule, but an opportunity to catch up with the great Mike Tirico ahead of Sunday Night Football here on GCR. Of course, coming up, Sunday Night Football, Ravens-Bengals here in Baltimore. That means one of my absolute favorites is back in town as he will be on the call with Chris Collinsworth and Baltimore's own Melissa Stark. He is the great Mike Tirico, and he's back with us now here on GCR. Mike, it's Glenn in Baltimore. It's great to chat with you again. Thank you for taking the time for us.
Yeah, Glenn, good to be with you. Hope all is well. Looking forward to some sunshine here. I know it hasn't been the greatest week weather-wise, but I think we've got a good forecast of the weekend.
Finally turned around. Yep, no doubt. It was a rough one. Mike, we're in a weird place, right? Because I don't know how you guys approach this. The Ravens are pretty clearly a good football team, right? They've trailed for all of 14 seconds through their first 4 games. They've just somehow managed to lose 2 of those games in the process. And there's an argument that good teams don't blow multiple 3-possession leads. Like, when you look at the Ravens' big picture going into this, what do you see in them?
Oh, they're not far away, right? If you think about 2-2, where the league is, nobody's running away and hiding, at least from where I sit this year. So that's not too much of a problem, right? You're a game back from being as good as anyone in the AFC. So there's no, oh my gosh, we're 2 back, they're a quarter of the season, what's going to happen here? I think there's just to take the losses for a second, you look at those losses, very uncharacteristic, although there is a little bit of a pattern in these one-score games of late and also the home games. So those are concerning things. But I think one game kind of turns that around. Win a close game, win a game at home, and you're off the schneid of that kind of stuff. That's why I think this is important. You don't want to start getting this hole any deeper in those regards. But when I look at the team, Glenn, the bigger thing to me, I think we've had a little bit of a flip. For years and years, you counted on the defense, you hoped the offense. That's turned the last few years, and now it's really turned here. We're a couple of years into this where, you want the offense on the field when it matters, not the defense, which we never used to think or say about the Ravens.
Mike, I've asked Ian and Kevin about this in recent weeks. You're calling Lamar Jackson playing football on Sunday night. And while I know he didn't have his most brilliant game last week, his first 3 were pretty stinking brilliant. And you just never know what you might see as a broadcaster and what he might do. Is there a pressure that comes with calling Lamar Jackson as a broadcaster? Is there boy, I better be on it because you just don't know what kind of magic we might see?
No, there's a fun to it for me. I don't think it's a pressure. I think it's the fun part of our job. You prepare all week, but the fun stuff is when you get there on Sunday night or Sunday day for Kevin and I. It's fun for me. We just had Patrick Mahomes, and not just Mahomes, and we saw what he did, down around the goal line, but also the Chiefs in general. I spent the whole week watching the red zone plays that they've run over the last couple of years inside the 5-yard line. And there are so many different things that you stay really focused on it. And son of a gun, wouldn't you know, they snapped it to their second-string tight end who was in motion and went under center as Mahomes was pointing to the left. So that's just like you're paying attention even more. You're always paying attention to the ball in it, but you're hyper-focused on being with or a step ahead of the play and not too far behind the play. And, I talk to Ian all the time. We've been friends for almost 30 years, and he's one of my dearest friends. And we were just talking about this on Monday, just the joy of doing those games. And Ian and Kevin are 2 of the best of calling the game in that moment, the exact moment as it's happening, not waiting and then calling it back afterwards. So, I think there's always a hyper awareness, but there's also a fun to it. Here's where I put the category. Tiger Woods always brought you to the TV because he might hit a golf shot you've never seen before. And Lamar and Patrick have a little bit about them that is similar to that, even Josh Allen too. You may see a play that you haven't seen before, and that keeps you right on top of the wheel here as you're driving.
Mike Tirico is with us Sunday Night Football, of course, on NBC, Ravens Bengals. It's so funny you bring that up, Mike, because when I brought it up with Ian, who I also adore, he compared it to Michael Jordan or doing NBA games over the years, like a Kobe or a LeBron, and I was like, wow, that is a great comparison. You've done a few Ravens Steelers games over the years, including the legendary "You Are the Voice of Wednesday Football" in the NFL.
Right, exactly right.
This thing now with the Ravens and the Bengals, clearly it's not Ravens Steelers. It can't be that, but. And I'm certainly not silly enough to think the Steelers are going to be buried for forever. But given the landscape now of this division and it being Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson, this feels like it's a pretty intense, budding rivalry between these two, franchises at this point.
Right. You almost feel like the game Week 18 is going to mean something for someone, if not both, right? Because you just have that feeling about these two teams, whether it's the division, a wild card, home field, whatever it might be. You just feel like something's going to be on the line Week 18 when these teams meet. And that is what you've figured out over the last couple of years. You're right with the quarterbacks. I think quarterbacks help make rivalries, and good defenses and good defensive play do as well. And I think you're on with both of these here. The one thing that kind of jumps out to me with this rivalry right now, or these teams as head-to-head combatants, the Ravens have that with almost everybody in the division. There's the legacy of the Steeler rivalry over the years. There is the generational
the
franchise move with Cleveland. And with this, as you said, hey, you Ravens swept them 2 years in a row, had won 5 in a row. And last year they didn't only sweep you, they destroyed you.
Mm-hmm.
They embarrassed you, right? And they put up performances that you never see the Ravens give up to the same team in the same season. So, yeah, all of a sudden, quarterbacks, score, game situation, we've got a rivalry, and that's great. So when you have 6 division games and all 6 have a little edge to them, that means you've been a really good team for a really long time, as we know the Ravens have been. So it's good. It's fun.
What do you make? We talked about the Ravens being a little uneven to start the season. What do you make of the Bengals and their kind of uneven start? Yeah. I know a lot of people bring up the Super Bowl hangover thing, and who knows how you define that, but are they fine now because they've won back-to-back games, or are they still maybe a little bit sluggish and it's still a little bit weird for them as they kind of adjust to life with the bullseye on their back?
Yeah, good question. I don't think anybody's fine right now in the NFL except maybe for Philadelphia. I've seen warts and holes and issues for every team that we've watched so far play, right? And with the Bengals, what did they need to fix? They needed to fix their offensive line. So they got 4 guys, essentially, to rework their offensive line, 1 through the draft, 3 through other NFL means. And I think they're better, but they didn't look it in game 1 for sure against the Steelers. But games 3 and 4, they've been a lot better in protecting Joe Burrow. So that's issue 1. Now, issue 2 is everybody in the league seems to be playing these coverages that allow you short stuff but not deep stuff, and that means you take away stud receivers. So where are we with finding ways to get the ball to Jamar Chase? And I think they're going to evolve and move him around as time goes on. So that's a long way and a detailed way of saying the first quarter of the season now, more than ever before, has become about discovery, self-discovery, who you are, what you do well, and discovery for what other teams do in the league and what they're going to look like. So I think we'll see better ball from the Bengals if they stay healthy through October and November.
Another couple minutes here with Mike Tirico as he gets ready for Sunday Night Football on NBC, Ravens-Bengals. Mike, the storyline in Baltimore throughout the week has, of course, been John Harbaugh's decision to go for it on 4th down. I don't know how you guys approach this with a broadcast. Like, do you wait for that decision to pop up to start talking about it? Do you lead in saying, hey, I mean, this is really a major storyline with how aggressive this team has chosen to be in both of their losses this season. There were some critical 4th down calls that were made that did not go their way, that turned the tide in a game. And, obviously there was the scene with Marcus Peters at the end of last week's game. Like, how much do you lean into that as you guys prepare for this broadcast?
I think it becomes situational. It's when it comes up, or then you bring it up at some point after you've established who's playing. For the Ravens fans, these are big details and discussed and dissected all week. If you're a Lions fan or a Titans fan or a Rams fan who's tuning in, you may have caught a highlight of it, but you don't know the scrutiny that comes with it. So you kind of establish the game first, get there second. Always have a plan, but sometimes you adjust the plan for what happens at the moment if it calls for it. I think the Ravens have been very analytically based earlier than other NFL teams. I think they've been an aggressive 4th down team. They've dabbled in it. When you go for it on 4th down and it works, you never reference back to it, right? When you go for it and it doesn't work, it becomes twice as impactful. I'd say overall, they're in a stretch right now where a couple haven't worked against them. I think more than the decision to go, it's the play call, right? And then the decision within the play call. Lamar throwing a pick there really changes the percentages. And that's the one thing. We were in the booth Sunday night, and Chris and I right away were getting in touch with the Pro Football Focus and our other research guys to go, okay, I don't have the numbers in front of me at the moment, but what were the win percentages to kick a field goal? What were the win percentages to go for it on 4th and 1 and leave them at the 1-yard line? But then you have the win percentages if you go for it on 4th and 1 and then they end up at the 20-yard line. And there's a variance from 4th and 1, leave them at the 1, 4th and 1, leave them at the 20. So you had all that. To me, the Marcus Peters stuff, that's just, you go back and watch the game film, the coach's film of that, and you just see multiple players with hands on head, like, what are we doing? What'd you do? We're trying to let them score, carry them in the end zone, whatever it is. That's just the right decision was made by the coaching staff, It was just not executed. So there are cascading issues here. Do I think it's a problem? No. Harbs has done this for 14 years now.
Sure.
In his 15th. He's been incredibly successful relative to most of the other guys out there. These are just streaks that you run into that after you've run into so many good streaks, you're going to run into something to balance it out.
You know what? I completely agree with that, Mike. It's as big of a deal as it proves to be moving forward, right? Like right now,
Right.
I'm utterly in agreement with you that I can be. We also know Marcus Peters has always been an emotional player, and if anything, he's been, a choir boy in Baltimore since he arrived. Like he's been wonderful since his arrival. We know he's an emotional guy, and that's okay. It's football. You're allowed to have emotions. Hey,
you should be mad if the decision was we're going to let them score, give ourselves a chance,
and nobody
cared,
cared.
You missed that communication, and you missed that. Go watch after the first down where they're supposed to let them score, and then Josh Allen takes it, gets the first down. Go watch the even a TV copy of that. Go watch the top of the screen as Marcus Peters is out there with Stephon Diggs. You can just see him boiling and how upset he is. I wouldn't want to see it blow up like that on a sideline necessarily, but I want to see that it matters so much that a potentially game-losing decision, has you very upset. That means you're invested and you care. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I agree.
This is silly.
And as long as there's no more of it, and you hope that as men they got together this week, everybody's good, and you move forward. I'm with you. I'm not concerned.
Yeah.
Mike.
Hey, you know what?
Yeah.
That guy's not going to make the mistake again.
Right. No doubt.
And
by the way, he nearly got that's the crazy part. When you go back and look at the film, he damn near got the fumble. He damn near got it.
Yeah.
He got the ball dislodged. Singletary just managed to hold on to it. Before I let you go, we have to ask. We saw the return of the slide this past Sunday night. Can we assume that there will be? It's the most electric moment in all of sports television. Can we assume
there's not one bit of significance to that. Actually, so here's the deal, and I'll be as brutally honest as I can. This internet sensation, which is such a waste of time, but here's the deal. I prefer opening the broadcast on a two-shot because it gives Chris 30 more seconds to talk about the game.
Okay.
I think you're spend 3.5 hours with us. I don't think you need to spend 30 seconds in an earlier time. No, in all seriousness, in an earlier time, I thought the 30 seconds to set up the matchup was significant. In 2022, everybody pretty much knows the story of the teams on a national level.
Sure.
So I don't think you need that. So my deal was you're going to spend 3.5 hours with the two of us. Let's open up the game as a team, as a partnership. And I'd rather Chris have 30 seconds to talk more about the game than telling you that this team won last week and lost the week before. The way the NFL is covered, I think that has evolved. So that's the way we've approached it. That's the way our producer was all in on that. But like when there's something serious like the hurricane or there's some big story that requires addressing at the top, then we're going to do it that way.
Okay.
I mean, the slide was great. We can leave it where it was. If Chris has to do it for a game or two or whatever because it's editorial, that's great. But for the internet meme that doesn't really change anybody's life, I'm not going to bother with that.
You know what? I greatly appreciate that explanation as a broadcaster, Mike.
Problem.
I truly, it's really well thought.
There's purpose to it.
Yep.
There's purpose to it. The purpose to it is the best analyst in the business who's won 17 Emmys. I want to give him a little more time at the beginning of the show so he doesn't have two sentences on each team.
Is it difficult at all? And I know I said I was going to, I promise this is it. Is it difficult at all dealing with the fact that like the world, and we deal with this in everything. When I do play-by-play now on the talks, that this is, heck, the Tonight Show is driven, by social and the internet and things like that. Is it tough to know that like there are people that clamor over this dumb thing that is meaningless in the course of broadcast?
No, it's fun. It's cool. It was neat. It's great that people had fun with it.
Yeah.
Let it stay where it was. Our goal is not to do the same show that Al and Chris and Fred Godelli was the producer and Michelle Tafoya did. They did an amazing show for a dozen years. That was the gold standard in TV. And most of the same principles are there. But if you fail in life when you try to be somebody else. So we're trying to do this as the similar bones to the show, right? But with our version of it. And one of the things for me was let's open the game on a two-shot. We're going to talk for 3.5 hours together. So let's welcome the audience together and get a little more out of you. So I think the social media thing has been incredibly fascinating, and it's good that people feel engaged. And anytime it's things that are, I don't know, connective and magnetic, like a slide or things like that, that's fun. When it's things that are off base, it's kind of silly, but you just dismiss it.
Right.
The slide was a great gig. It was cool. It was funny. Does it change the value of the broadcast? Not for a second. Does it change the information the audience gets? Not for a second. So I'm going to make a decision based on what's the best professional thing to do, not that a meme is going to go on the internet. Because at the end of the day, that meme or that whatever you want to put of the Collinsworth slide there doesn't change the job we do, the information we get out to the people. So it doesn't matter. I've spent more time talking about it.
I know. But by the way,
than I ever would have imagined.
I just feel like I took a Mike Tirico masterclass. I feel like I might owe you money for that. I feel got a broadcast. I'm telling you, I feel like if we went to Syracuse, that would be incredible knowledge from a like I owe you for that. That is awesome, Mike Tirico.
By the way, Kirk doesn't slide in with Al on the Amazon games, right?
Right.
They open the game
right.
in the shot without the crowd behind them,
right?
With the monitor behind them. When we did Notre Dame games, we'd come on from the booth about 14 minutes before kickoff. I did a 30-second open to that because it was the start of the broadcast. We weren't bringing in the analysts, and we were going back down to the field. So it all depends on what works for the format, not what works for let's get clicks. I mean, enough of our world is set up for let's get clicks and traction, and that in my opinion, in some ways we've lost what we do, and that's service the viewer. So
awesome.
Hopefully the services the viewer the best by getting 15, 18 more seconds of Chris setting up the game as opposed to just me setting up the game. And you know what? That's all good.
I'm with it. I'm with it. We're there to watch the game. By the way, I got to tell you, there is not a week in my life that goes by. You've had so many legendary calls, and I know this one. I think I've told you this before. There's not a week in my life that goes by that I don't think about Will Hill will score.
Will Hill?
Will Hill will score is one of the most understated, great calls I've ever heard him. It was so perfect in the moment. It was a meaning. It wasn't meaningless. It wasn't a significant Monday night game in New Orleans, but damn,
no.
It was such a perfect call of a Will Hill pick six. I don't know why I think about it constantly, Mike Tirico. I think about it all the time. It was brilliant.
Well, I would suggest you go to the library and get a few hobbies. You got to expand that. We think here, Glenn, a little bit. It was a fun game and a fun night for sure. We've had, and that's the like you said it before. The joy of this is to be right on the wheel, like you're driving in a NASCAR race, ready for that next moment. You got to react.
Yep.
And Ian and I talk about that all the time. It's the fun of doing games. And candidly, I miss it not doing as many games as I used to. I think you just get better by reps. I really do. And I think when you do 50 or 60 games, you're a better announcer than when you do 10 or 15. So I love it. I enjoy it. And there's no better part of the week for me than the 3.5-hour open book oral exam that we take in front of America.
That's awesome.
How did we study the Ravens and the Bengals for the week, and do we have all the answers? It's a load of fun. I love it, and can't wait to do it again.
Far too kind with your time. Sunday Night Football on NBC, Ravens, Bengals. Mike Tirico, truly appreciate you taking the time for us this morning, sir. Thank you.
Same here. Great to connect, and we look forward to a good weekend in Baltimore. Stay well.
All right, we can invite Stan the Fan back now because Mike's gone. And
I never liked him.
I don't blame you. Apparently the feeling's mutual, so it worked out all right. Boy, he was fired up about the slide, wasn't he? Oh, man, did he have something to say about that. I guess that means we assume we're probably not going to see it on Sunday night, just if I had to guess.
It's a great question.
I thought it was just going to be a nice throwaway at the end, and boy, he had a lot to say about the old Chris Collinsworth slide. Good stuff. All right, let's do Young Utes. Young Utes is brought to you today by Guilford Hall Brewery. We have been at Guilford Hall now a couple times already this year. It is it's a gem in our city. You're going to show up and you're going to say, I cannot believe this is here. It is an immaculate venue. Multiple indoor spaces and outdoor space.
Where's it located?
1611 Guilford Avenue in Station North. It just pops up like you'll get off and you'll be on North Avenue and you'll be like, I know this part of town. And all of a sudden you'll turn right And you're just like, what the hell? Like, where am I? It is amazing. The beer selection, phenomenal. The Bavarian menu, outstanding. They got a Halloween party coming up on the 29th. Free to get in, costume contest, live music. Find out more at guilfordhall.com. I cannot encourage you.
Going as Draymond Green or Jordan Poole?
I'm team Jordan Poole on this one for sure. I mean, it's easy to say he's the one that got sucker punched, but like he's also the guy that has more value at the moment than Draymond Green does. It's such a weird. I don't know what to make of it.
I don't know how they solve that.
I think the Warriors will do everything in their power to work it out somehow. Like I don't think this will just be them saying that's it, you got to go. I mean, Draymond Green's been around for too long. They put up with too much over the years.
He's an important piece of their engine.
Correct.
Man. I mean, he's the energy guy.
But he stunk for the most part last year.
That was really something else.
So, yeah, I think they'll do their best to work it out. But I love Guilford Hall Brewery, guilfordhall.com. What you got for us? What are the young Utes talking about, Micah?
All right, so the first thing I've got today is a trend that's been going on for a couple years, and that is celebrity boxing. So have you seen anything about the new card? The next celebrity boxing card.
I feel like I saw something. Why do I feel like Anderson Silva is boxing one of the Paul brothers?
Yeah, so the main card has been out for like a week or 2 weeks, and that is Jake Paul versus Anderson Silva.
Okay.
And then yesterday they just released one of the undercard fights, which has some Baltimore relevance.
Oh?
It was a running back from recent years.
Le'Veon Bell, yes.
Le'Veon Bell is fighting former UFC fighter Uriah Hall.
I remember Uriah Hall. Uriah Hall had one of the more remarkable knockouts of all time, if I remember correctly. Who was that,
correct.
Griffin?
Was it when Chris Weidman broke his leg? Is that the one you're thinking of?
That's not the one I'm thinking of.
I'm trying to, because he also beat Anderson Silva in Anderson Silva's final fight, but that wasn't like a crazy.
But I feel like he had like a
knockout.
spinning head kick knockout years ago, before he was in like the main event picture, and it was the type of thing that I talked about for like months because it was just the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my life.
On the Ultimate Fighter. Yeah, you're right.
Right.
You're right. He knocked out Adam Sella.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I know I'm not crazy.
Has Bell had
I feel like he had another fight, didn't he? Did he fight Adrian Peterson?
Yes, and he knocked him out in the 5th round.
Okay.
So this is his pro debut.
Yeah, this is his
pro debut. That's what they're saying.
No.
The Le'Veon Bell quote that was crazy to me is he said, Uriah Hall is going to feel my punching power and tap out like he's getting submitted. He's not built like me.
This guy,
I feel like Uriah Hall's gotten punched before.
Yeah, yes.
I refuse to participate in these things. Like this is the problem for me is I actually like boxing, right? So I hate everything about this. I refuse. It bums me out because I'll talk to guys who fight. Like a few Baltimore fighters have fought on the undercards of Jake or Logan Paul fights. Like Lorenzo Simpson fought on an undercard. I'm pretty sure Travis Hawkins fought on an undercard. I know Hasim Rahman Jr. In fact, Hasim Rahman Jr. was supposed to fight Jake Paul, if I remember correctly, and then couldn't get under 220 pounds, so it didn't work out. And I know that's a good payday for them, and I know that like they get exposure and all that, but I just hate everything about it so much. It's such a travesty that we consider this to be some sort of sporting competition. It drives me. But everybody else seems to love it. I'm very much old man yelling at cloud when it comes to this.
I'll definitely be watching. Not sure I'll be doing it in the most legal fashion.
I don't know if that's something you should admit out loud, Griffin.
I can admit it.
God. No, I will not. I will not be invested at all in any of this. This does nothing for me whatsoever. It drives me. What was the fight that we went to your house and watched, Dan? What was the?
That was Floyd Mayweather
and Conor McGregor, right?
Good
one.
Oh, what a ridiculous!
Gross, just gross. Stan spent money on that. Stan,
don't you owe me?
No,
$20.
I owed you beer, and I'm pretty sure nobody drank. I did the bit where
you brought somebody that brought like 2 6-packs or something.
I think I brought Simon.
Simon.
I think I brought Simon had to marry him, right? And I had him bring beer for me.
Who'd you bet on, Stan?
I wouldn't bet that fight. I don't
okay.
even know what
it was one of those things you really couldn't bet because like the odds were so absurd. There was no real betting benefit to it. God, it sucked. Oh, it was just awful. And like you're waiting around all night for this fight. I want to say Gervonta was on the undercard, and that was a big deal. That I want to say.
I wonder if that was why we did.
Right.
That was why we
I'm pretty
did
sure
it.
the second to last fight was a
that's right.
Gervonta
That's exactly
fight,
right.
and that was the reason why we all decided we were going to watch it.
That's right.
You're waiting around, and then you get to this fight, and you're like, what are we doing? Why are we here? What is this? God. I still feel hinky about that. So, no, I will not. Refuse to, and I hate everything about it. I hate it. What happened to boxing? It used to be real. Sorry. It's this is one of my eternal old man yells at cloud things.
Too much money now.
Yeah. I mean, so what? So should we just let the Paul brothers play baseball now?
Yeah.
Should we just let them infiltrate like every sport? Next year, the Spurs stink. The Spurs are terrible. Their win-loss number is 22.5 this year at FanDuel. Maybe they should just let Jake Paul play. Because, hey, people will watch, right? And people will spend money on it. So maybe the Spurs should just let Jake Paul play basketball for them.
There were talks of him getting a NFL tryout, too.
God damn, I hate
one of the Paul brothers?
Jake.
Wow.
He wanted to play
I mean,
corner.
yeah, people are going to watch. People would eat that up.
Everything.
If the Ravens need help in the secondary, Jake Paul will.
By the way,
the call.
one of those dudes is going to end up being president one day. We are effed. We are screwed. We have no ability. They're famous, so we just got to watch them because they're famous. I was trying to explain to somebody how the Liver King is famous the other day because we were talking about. So Tim from Bel Air suggests that we should do a Liver King themed bet where we have to dress up as the guy and then eat like penis. You know what I mean? Like eat whatever nonsensical things this man eats.
Testicles.
Yes,
baby.
a lot of testicles.
I don't
and
wanna.
so the guy, somebody I was talking to was like, so how exactly is the Liver King famous? And I was like, well, the internet. And he was like, right, but how? And I was like, you know what, man? I don't know.
He does sensational things online.
He's just famous.
By claiming he's natty and eating raw liver.
And if you do that, you get to be famous. That's the way that it works now. You don't have to be good at something. You don't have to be skilled. You just get to be famous.
He is pretty
That's the way that
jacked.
it
He's
works.
pretty jacked.
He's jacked. Nobody's arguing with that. But the way is he doing something redeemable for society? I could not tell you. I don't know. I just know that he's muscular and he eats penises.
He's giving us content.
Thank you, Griffin. I don't have an answer. All right, what's next?
All right, so moving on from celebrity boxing to music. This one's about a rapper and singer who's been popular for years now named Kid Cudi.
I'm familiar.
You know Kid Cudi?
I'm very familiar with Kid.
Stan?
Have you not heard my Kid Cudi story?
I don't think
What's
so.
your Kid Cudi story?
I went out with Kid Cudi.
What? Nuh-uh.
Yeah, and Aaron Paul. 100%.
Let's wait. No, you did tell me this.
Yeah.
You did tell me this.
Aaron
I do
Paul,
remember this.
We did. They were the year of the Super Bowl was in New York. Aaron Paul and Kid Cudi were promoting. I want to say it was the Need for Speed movie, and they came over and they sat with us at the table and they were great. They had a lot of fun. And later in the day, Aaron Paul, after he had done The Ringer and like went and done 100 interviews, walked back to the table and was like, "Dude, we had a lot of fun with you. Like, what are you guys doing later?" And I was like, I don't know. Said, well, we're going to be at this whatever rooftop if you want to come out. And I remember joking with Luke Jones, like, they're not actually going to be there. Like, there's no way. But we went. We showed up. They were there. They were very cool. I did the bit where, like, I said hello and then left. Like, I didn't linger. I always think that, like, it's polite to invite somebody, but then they don't really want dumb Glenn Clark hanging out with them all night.
That would become my party.
Yeah, I politely said, "Hey man, really appreciate it." And they were great guys. I like both of them a great deal.
All right, so Kid Cudi recently.
I don't know. There's no other.
That's pretty cool. It's a pretty sick story.
There's no great.
Story.
There's no like great end to the story. There's no like, and we went out and ripped it up for. We went to the strip clubs or anything like that. Did meth together.
Partied with
or
Kid
something
Cudi.
Like that.
Yeah.
I'm just jealous and mad.
Yeah,
at
it was
you
cool.
Now.
It was
That's
really
why
cool. It was very cool.
So he recently just dropped his album called Intergalactic, paired with a Netflix movie.
The Beastie Boys have an album called Intergalactic?
Intergalactic.
Intergalactic.
Yeah,
Intergalactic.
Cody's is Intergalactic.
And it came with a Netflix animated movie. But then he recently went on a Hot Ones interview to promote the album. And the quote from him says, "I just don't know if I want to do music, drop albums for too much longer, you know? I'm kind of nearing an end on all things Kid Cudi."
Well, what does that mean,
So
though?
he could be
retiring.
retiring.
To go do what?
But that's
to become a celebrity boxer?
No, this is what I was going to
hopefully not.
Take one guess to guess what he wants his career to be after music.
A botanist.
Stan, any guesses?
What's that now?
Yeah, what?
Any guesses for this rapper's
He's
career?
He's gonna be a museum curator.
I should have left 37 minutes.
Yeah, as it turns out.
So he followed it up by saying, but it would be cool to like one day be a kindergarten teacher.
Sure.
Kid Cudi wants to be a
kindergarten teacher. Yeah, sure. Why not? Why not?
He's a good guy. I think he'd be a great kindergarten teacher.
You know what?
What an honor.
I just thought that was an interesting career
I would love to
switch.
have my kids, if I had kids, taught by
I mean, it would be cool. If I walked into St. Joseph's today and I dropped my kid off at class and we were like, this is my teacher, Mr. Cuddy. And I was like, wait, what?
Mr. Mess Cuddy.
Remember that rooftop?
Yeah, I know. Would he recognize you, think?
I don't think so. I can't imagine.
That'd be pretty cool.
It was cool. I mean, it was a decade ago. It was a long time ago. Look, man, whatever. It's way better than the path that Kanye West has taken.
Yeah.
So, you know what? I'm all in. I'm all in. Let Kid Cudi retire from music and go be a teacher. It's far better than that. And what's number 3?
All right, so this one is about Fashion Week, but not the Kanye West track. I'm taking it a different route.
God.
So did you see any of Balenciaga's mud fashion show?
I assure you I did not. I assure you I have no clue.
I assumed you and Stan were big on Fashion Week.
Yeah. Well, Stan actually was there. He had to fly back from Fashion Week.
To teach kindergarten.
He flew all the way back when he heard Mike Tirico was going to be on this show, so it's a little awkward.
Yeah.
Yeah, so wait till you hear how fun it sounds. So he did the fashion show, the designer did, for Balenciaga, and it was completely covered in mud. So listen to this quote from New York Times. Picture you just flew to Paris.
I think I might be in on this.
Wait till you hear the quote. You flew to Paris, got a nice hotel, you're ready for the Fashion Week fashion show from Balenciaga. This is talking about the designer. It says, he decided to truck in more than 9,700 cubic feet of black mud harvested from a bog and dump it in the middle of a convention center on the outskirts of Paris.
Yeah, why not?
It was smushed onto the walls, sliding down the sides of an enormous trough, and dug into a shallow catwalk along the edge, seeping with water. The air was pungent with a special scent created to enhance the smell of decomposition, and slime was oozing across the aisles. Guests picked their way carefully to their seats, terrified of wiping out. That's fashion, baby.
I think I'm good.
It's art.
I think I'm all right. I was getting some stuff on the internet about how I dressed with the Puma, the Panda. What are they called?
Panda
Dunks. The other night.
You already forgot.
I'm good. I'm just gonna go ahead and be me. If this is where we're headed, I'm all right. I'm just gonna be all right wearing khakis and a polo shirt. Thank you, Micah. That it both disturbs me greatly and was yet somehow a solid representation of what the young people are all about. So,
it's frightening.
Yes,
absolutely
correct.
Frightening.
It's terrifying about where we are. All right, today's show has also been brought to you by this one's been brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland, the best place to watch and bet on all of the football this weekend. But they get big crowds, so you want to reserve your table, reserve your reclining chairs by emailing events@sportssocialmd.com. We'll come back in, get a tidbit, tubular, and then segment number 3 of the Tyus Bowser Show. It's Glenn Clark Radio. See Olympic athletes in action as the nation's best horses and riders compete in one of the world's premier equestrian events at the Mars Maryland 5-Star at Fair Hill, presented by Brown Academy, October 13th through 16th in Cecil County. Don't miss the breathtaking excitement of the dynamic cross-country competition or the elegance of dressage and precision of show jumping. There's also great shopping and activities, including a fresh food fest, corgi race, and a beer, wine, and spirits showcase. So come enjoy a beautiful fall day at the Mars Maryland 5-Star at Fair Hill, presented by Brown Advisory, October 13th through 16th. Learn more and buy tickets at maryland5star.us.
Come experience Maryland's #1 sportsbook this NFL season at the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel, the ultimate place for any sports enthusiast. Take advantage of our 24/7 kiosks, massive video screens, and watch all the action from the best seat in the house. With more money paid out than anyone around, make every moment more at the new FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover, Maryland. Please play responsibly. Gambling problem? Please call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit mdgamblinghelp.org.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
The Baltimore County Police Department is hiring. Entry-level officers start at close to $59,000 a year with a $10,000 bonus. Some restrictions apply. Plus a great retirement plan, medical, dental, and vision insurance, advancement to specialized units, tuition reimbursement, reimbursement, 15 sick days earned per calendar year, and even further incentives for military members and veterans. If you have a passion for service and want a career for life, visit joinbaltimorecountypd.com or call 410-887-5542. You must be a United States citizen, possess a valid driver's license, and have a high school diploma or GED equivalent. The Baltimore County Police Department is an equal opportunity employer.
Sports betting has come to Maryland, and we're ready to help you win some money. Tune in for Simply the Bets every Tuesday morning at 11:40. FanDuel Sportsbook GM Leon Twyman and VSiN's Aaron Oster join the guys every week to give you all of the info you need and offer you a few winners. And every other Thursday at 11:40, tune in for Weekend at Bookies as Andrew Stecca and Alloy Sports' Brad Kronthal help make you some money for the weekend. So come win some money with us on Simply the Bets every Tuesday and Weekend at Bookies every other Thursday. Brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Listen at PressBoxOnline.com/radio. Watch at YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline.
Experience the best in Kamado Grilling, a complete outdoor cooking appliance. The Ginsu Kamado Grill allows anyone to sear, grill, bake, and smoke all types of food. Designed for efficiency and function, the Ginsu Kamado Grill upholds the enduring legacy of the iconic Ginsu brand. The Ginsu Kamado Grill is perfect to cook all year round, is great for parties, and ideal for tailgating with your friends. Reserve your Ginsu Kamado Grill today at ginsugrills.com and get $100 off on your pre-order when you use the promo code TAILGATE. That's ginsugrills.com. Reserve yours today.
Join Glenn at halftime of every Ravens game for the Project Game Day halftime show at facebook.com/PressBoxSports. We apologize in advance. There's not much we can do about his face.
You're about to hear segment 3 of the Tyus Bowser Show with Mark Andrews. I know you got to hang tight with me. We will be announcing the next date for the Tyus Bowser Show. We just had a couple of scheduling snafus that came up, so we're nailing it down right now. It will probably be 2 weeks from now, but we're just trying to put some finishing touches on it. Bear with us. We will give you at least a week's notice of when and where the next Tyus Bowser Show will be. Tyus Bowser Show is a partnership of PressBox and Grade 8's Memorabilia. It's brought to you by our friends at Maryland Vascular Specialists and the all-new Ginsu Kamado Grill. Stan, this was a question from Paul in Ovilando. The Orioles, of course, have a new pitching lab. Wants to know what you think of what kind of impact it already has or will have on pitching throughout the system.
Well, clearly, Chris Holt and the analytical side of whatever it is they work on, I call it kind of the secret sauce, has had some great impact on some pitchers in this organization. The way Chris Holt has turned Dean Kramer around, Austin Voth, Boyd found a way to get Felix Bautista to be able to throw the ball over the plate. He's a terrific teacher. And I think today's younger players are really willing to listen to the input from these analytical people that how to maximize what it is they do best and limit the damage. And I think they've done a pretty good job, and I would imagine that this lab will just further that work.
John Little Rock, the alternate stream with Hannah Storm and Andrea Kramer, way better on Prime Video than the Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit broadcasts. I have not taken a listen, but perhaps it's something that I'll give a shot to next week.
So now, wait a minute. They're doing a broadcast like the K-Rod thing?
Kind of like that, but I think they do one that's more like play-by-play.
But they're actually doing the Thursday night prime game.
Yeah, they're doing
And where do you watch that on?
I guess they give you, when you pull up the game,
you could have an
they
option.
give you the option to watch. Because they were also doing, I want to say, like a Dude Perfect broadcast.
And it's Andrea Kramer and who?
And Hannah Storm.
Hannah Storm.
I like both of them a great deal.
I think it's semi like the Manning cast. I mean, I think you're right. Like
I'm pretty sure
I know
they do more of a game.
I know they had
broadcast.
Von Miller on during the game yesterday.
Okay, all right.
I mean, I didn't watch any of it either. But I think they still try to do like interviews of relevant people to the game.
They had him on the Hannah Storm Andrea Kramer version or on the Dude Perfect version?
Von Miller, I'm pretty sure it was last night.
I understand that, but they're doing multiple.
They had a Dude Perfect and a Hannah Storm.
Yeah,
wow.
they've done the Hannah Storm Andrea Kramer one for a couple years now. on Amazon, and I'm pretty sure it's just more of like a game broadcast.
Oh.
Now maybe they've changed it now that they have the traditional game broadcast.
I will check it out next week and have a better report on it.
I don't know. I don't know all the details. I haven't watched, but it might be a way to go because you're right. This broadcast isn't doing much for me. And John Proctor points out that we should be prepared for the Jake Paul Kim Kardashian presidential ticket in 2032. In fairness, Kim Kardashian actually appears to have a platform. Like she actually appears to be doing some good in the world and trying to help with prison reform and things along those lines. I'm not sure what Jake Paul has to offer the world, which is, of course, why he'll definitely end up being the president of the country because that's how we do things around here. And apparently, I was wrong. Intergalactic was on the Beastie Boys album, Hello Nasty. So thank you, John, for letting me know. It was a song. It was a great song, but it was on Hello Nasty. All right, Tidbit brought to you by Glory Days Grill. The Oktoberfest menu is available right now at your neighborhood Glory Days Grill. The chicken schnitzel, the Bavarian burger on the pretzel bun, as well as the brewer sausage sandwich, the brewer sausage platter, the slam dunk pretzels, the cheddar ale soup, all delicious. GloryDaysGrill.com. Get your order in right now.
All right, so I got actually, I meant to ask earlier, how's the chair?
It has not fallen apart, and I just think we start with that.
A little disconcerting when Micah the Mike was carrying it over and the bottom steering wheel fell off.
Yeah.
That actually didn't happen.
No, I saw it. It did happen, and it made me I made Micah sit in the chair first after.
That was smart.
So Griffin did most of the work. I helped him slightly. Micah helped him more significantly putting together this chair this morning that I forgot I needed to put together during the course of the week. And I said, Micah, go ahead, give that thing a test ride. And it seemed like, Micah's a big, strong boy. Like he's good. So I was like, if you can handle Micah, it's going to be fine for me. And then, yes, I did see as he brought it over, the bottom part of the chair.
I didn't move to say, hey,
that's
the new chair. Let me give you your old chair back.
I did notice
I was a little nervous.
I'm good, though. It's been a nice, this has worked out quite fine. And how's my back feels much better than it did last Friday. So we got that. We got
seriously,
that going
that stool it was murdered.
Awful. Awful. All right, Griffin.
All right, so you guys are familiar with the 40-40 Club in baseball, right?
I am also familiar with the Mile High Club. Familiar with both things.
Okay. Well, I'm actually referring to the 40.
I'm not a member
Club.
of the Mile High Club. I want to make that clear. I'm not.
Guys that have hit 40 home runs and then
Micah was so happy for me, like I'd accomplished something in my life.
Like, let's go, Glenn.
Good for you, Glenn.
Okay, so the 40 home run club and the 40 games missed club.
What?
Yeah, so you hit 40 home runs and
Despite,
you played and you
I'm
and
guessing
you didn't
Mike
play.
Trout
Yes, so Mike Trout joined this exclusive club this past year in 2022, where he played fewer than 120 games. So he is the fourth player to play fewer than 120 games, and hit 40 home runs. And then there are a couple of guys that have missed 40 home runs, so they played exactly 120, 21. So I'm kind of grouping everyone together and calling it the 40-40.
Been 4 players, and Trout is one of them.
Yes, that have played fewer than 120 games, and then there's one more fella that has missed 40 games, but he played at least 120 and hit 40.
Byron
runs.
Buxton would have made the list had I not acquired him.
Yeah,
in
you
trade.
son of a bitch. Way to go.
So I'm looking for 5 guys right now. So I'm looking,
we're all looking for 5 guys. It's lunchtime. What are we doing?
We're going to Glory Days.
I do prefer Glory Days.
So there's 5 more players that have hit 40 home runs, and missed 40 games.
I have no idea.
Is Soriano one of them?
Soriano is not one of them. He is in the real 40-40 club where he stole 40 bases. Okay. He's most recent to do so.
Is Canseco
Canseco's he's in the real 40-40 club.
Griffey.
Griffey is in the 40 home run, 40 missed club because of the 1994 strike shortened.
I forgot about 94.
Mm-hmm. So there's a second guy that also
Bagwell?
did that in 94. Not Bagwell.
Frank Thomas?
Not Frank Thomas.
Juan Gonzalez?
Not Juan Gonzalez.
That was a good guess.
He was a San Francisco Giant.
He was a Giant in 94. Matt Williams?
Matt Williams.
I didn't realize Matt
Excellent
Williams.
guess.
I didn't realize he hit 40 home runs that year. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Matt Williams was going to have a 50 home run season? Holy crap. Matt Williams is a heck of a player, but I didn't.
I'm trying to think of some of the guys that.
So there's a guy that did it there's 2 guys actually on this list that did it.
Mark McGwire?
Not Mark McGwire. In the past 5 years, there are 2 guys on this list.
Did in the past 5 years.
Yes.
Harper.
Not Harper.
Stanton.
Not Stanton. One of them is a former Oriole.
Nelson Cruz?
Nelson Cruz in 2019.
Good call.
Hit 40-plus and missed 40 games. And then another guy is a guy that everyone's saying they would like to see the Orioles sign this offseason.
JD Martinez?
JD Martinez in 2017. And then one more guy did it in the 70s, hit 40, didn't play, missed 40 games.
Reggie Jackson.
Not Reggie Jackson. Early 70s.
Early 70s.
Frank.
Not a Baltimore connection.
No.
Okay.
No, you got it. You got a dentist appointment, so we got to go.
Oh, yeah. Hank Aaron.
Okay.
1973.
That was a good one.
Impressive.
All right.
We did pretty good on that.
We did do fairly well on that.
We didn't throw out too many guesses.
Yeah, we did. Well, he helped us a little bit, but, I still can't believe Matt Williams. My mind is truly blown by Matt Williams being on. He would have hit 53 home runs that season. That is nuts. All right, here's what's coming up Totally Tubular-wise. Totally Tubular is brought to you by, you know what? I think have we done everything, Griffin? Have I done all the, Ginsu. I need to do another Ginsu, don't I? The all-new Ginsu Kamado Grill. This Sunday, if you're headed to the game. You going to the game on Sunday, Stan?
I certainly will be there.
It's supposed to be crisp, but not unpleasant.
Supposed to get down in the mid-40s, I believe.
Oh, I didn't know it was supposed to get down that low. Oh, my. That's going to feel cold.
But it's going to be like 60 during the,
during
the 60s.
During the day.
So it won't be horrible.
All right.
layer day.
Definitely a layer day for sure. If you're headed to the game, stop by the Game Day Firehouse at the Firefighters Union Hall just west of the stadium, 1202 Ridgely Street, and get a sample of the cooking from the all-new Ginsu Kamado Grill. Try some food, enter to win your own Ginsu Kamado ceramic grill and $500 worth of grilling meats. And, of course, if you use the code TAILGATE right now at ginsugrills.com, you'll save $100 when you pre-order your own Ginsu Kamado Grill. All right, busy weekend. A lot going on with the playoffs and football.
Terps, I'm going to be out at the Terps
game. Oh, you going
tomorrow.
out?
Yes, Gary Stein and I are going to make our season debut out there.
Here's the baseball schedule. Right now on ESPN, Rays Guardians Game 1. It's Shane McClanahan and Shane Bieber. Then Game 1 between
battle of the
Shanes. Yes, Shane and Shane. Mariners Blue Jays Game 1 at 4. Luis Castillo, Alek Manoah. Padres Mets Game 1 at 8. Yu Darvish and Max Scherzer. ABC for Game 1 of the Phillies and Cardinals at 2, Zach Wheeler and Jose Quintana. I'll let the best of the baseball, you can find that at GlennClarkRadio.com. Tomorrow, the Stan points out, Maryland Purdue, noon on Big Ten Network. Navy hosts Tulsa at 3:30 on CBS Sports Network. Towson's at Elon at 2 on Flow Sports. Morgan's at home against Norfolk State at 1. Sunday. NBC, of course, for Bengals-Ravens at 8:20. The local TV games, CBS at 1 o'clock for Steelers-Bills. Fox has Falcons-Buccaneers at 1, and then Cowboys-Rams at 4:25. Don't forget another London game on Sunday morning, NFL Network at 9:30 a.m. for Giants-Packers as well. Everything else, just go to GlennClarkRadio.com. You'll find it there. Anything that stands out non-sports-wise? Yeah, we need Griffin again. Yeah.
Well, Towson Dodgeball has a home tournament on Sunday.
Thank you. That's all that anybody will care about.
Yes.
It's the biggest event of the weekend.
And that's it.
That's it?
No, Lord of the Rings episode, obviously. There's a Netflix
Who is
movie.
the guy hosting Saturday Night Live that I'm supposed to pretend like I know?
Brendan Gleeson.
Who is that?
He's great.
Who is he?
He played
Trump, right?
He played Trump in something.
Yeah.
He's done some. Oh God, what was the name of the movie he did with? That's when you know you're starting.
He was in Paddington 2.
Oh, well, if you had told me that, I'm
he did
watch that 100 times.
In Bruges.
Oh, he was okay.
He was the main guy in Bruges, the assassin.
All right. That was a long time ago. Why is he hosting
That's
Saturday
I
Night
don't know.
Live?
The only
Connor, who was in that with him? The young handsome guy.
Oh God,
it's not quite as young anymore.
Oh man. It
was
Colin Farrell. Thank you.
Colin Farrell.
Thank you. Yes.
I started to say Colin Firth.
Yes. No, not Colin Firth.
I'm not sure what he's promoting. The only note I wrote was that he has some Irish thing coming up.
He's a terrific actor.
I saw the announce on last week. They did the promo, and next week, and they were like, and Brent, I'm like, I don't know who that is.
Yeah.
Musical guest Willow Smith.
Okay.
She just dropped an album last night.
Yes, new album from Willow.
Willow and Brendan Gleason.
Yes.
Did it
Get up.
together.
Oh, well.
Yeah,
well,
Brendan.
It's the moment you've
Brendan's
been waiting for.
Teaching kindergarten.
Correct, with Kid Cudi.
The last few
By the way, it's
years.
12:28. We still haven't even played the Tyus
yes.
Bowser
There's
Show.
a
We gotta go.
There's a Redeem Team documentary on Netflix, and then the Luckiest
Oh,
Girl
that's
live
right.
movie, which is Mila Kunis.
Okay.
Does she
make out with Natalie Portman?
No.
Okay,
no,
then I
but
will probably pay. No.
Dramatic movie.
Sure. Stan the Fan. Monday. No power rankings.
No power rankings because they're done for the year. Ross and I will be on at 6 o'clock Monday with, we hope, Ken Singleton.
I love Ken Singleton. That's
Not sure yet.
Tremendous.
We got one part of that equation. We got to talk to Ken Singleton.
You know what? That would be important. You got to make sure he's on board. Of course, you will be on tomorrow morning with Paul and Zach on the Bat Around, 10 to noon. So make sure you're tuned in for that. I will be doing post game on 105.7 The Fan on Sunday night. I was given a big. This is very nice of them. If the game runs really late, you can cut it short and end at 1 a.m. It's very kind.
And then you're back on Monday morning.
I'll be back here Monday morning, 100%. And I'll be doing Project Game Day at halftime at
Why don't you sleep here?
Facebook.com/PressBox
Why don't you sleep here Monday?
Big's that couch out there. I'm not sure if that's the play for me or not.
That couch stars in something.
Oh, you know what? Maybe I'm going to stay away from sleeping on that couch. All right. Thanks today to Mike Tirico. Thanks also to Bo Smolka. Thanks as well.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks to Mike Smith. We'll get all of it up in the greatest hits section of the tab at GlennClarkRadio.com. Thanks to everybody at PressBox, all of our great sponsors and partners, including the Baltimore County Police Department, Glory Days Grill, Royal Farms, the Costas Inn, the Maryland 5-Star, Guilford Hall Brewery, Grade 8's Memorabilia, the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland, Maryland Vascular Specialist, the all-new Ginsu Kamado Grill, the Baltimore Orioles, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Thanks to Stan, at Stan the Fan on Twitter. Thanks to Micah, Micah.Ernest on Instagram. Thanks to Griffin, Griffin_Bass. Follow us, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Glenn Clark Radio. Have a great weekend. Go local football teams.
Towson Dodgeball.
Sure. Duke sucks. Ohio State sucks too. We end today's show, the longest show we've ever done in the history of the program. Segment 3 of the Tyus Bowser Show with special guest Mark Andrews. And welcome back in here for segment number 3 of the Tyus Bowser Show. PressBox and 105.7 The Fan. We are live at Guilford Hall Brewery in Station North. If you have not been to Guilford Hall, man, you got to get out here. It is amazing. GuilfordHall.com. Indoor, outdoor, trivia, yappy hour. They got it all going on during the week. An amazing beer list as well. GuilfordHall.com. Tyus Bowser, Mark Andrews, Rita, and Glenn with you. I have a question for you, Tyus. Mm-hmm. On Sunday night, you guys are playing a football game, and the Ravens just announced that Nelly is going to be there at halftime. Rita is not inspired at all. Rita hates it.
Why?
Nelly is my age.
Okay.
That song that he's going to sing was relevant 20 years ago.
And it's still a great song.
It's not.
Yes,
Let's be honest about it.
Are you a hater?
Okay, let me tell you why. Because, that was the song. That's the song. That's the squirrel song. You know how many times we've had to hear that over the years?
Yeah.
I'm tired.
You're going to hear a lot more of it.
Clearly.
A lot more of it.
So I suggested, have you guys seen the new TikTok trend where the Baltimore kids be dancing and they have this dance called the Park Heights Strut?
No.
You never seen? I'm going to show it to y'all.
Okay.
I suggested they just get a DJ at halftime and get all the Baltimore dancers come out and do the Park Heights Strut.
Oh, my God.
Oh,
my goodness.
I feel like it would be better than Nelly doing Hot in Here.
You sure you want to be on her side about the whole thumbs up, thumbs down thing now? You sure you still? It's not too late to come over to your pal Glenn's side at this point.
Now, you telling me you like Nelly?
Nah,
come on,
I mean,
Mark, do you not like? No, seriously, do you like Nelly? Tell the truth and shame the devil.
Shout out to Nelly, man.
Nah,
do you listen to Nelly's music in 2022?
But does that mean are you when you see that today? Are you like, wow, that's cool? Or is it like, who cares? I got a football game. Like,
it was surprising because I seen it on social media. I seen it on Instagram. And I was like, oh dang, we having a whole halftime concert and Nelly out there. I was like, okay, that's dope. But like you just said, we got a football game to play.
You got other things to worry about. There were a lot of. I want to make this very clear. I am in no ways comparing Nelly to Beyonce. I want to make that abundantly clear.
Of course.
I'm not. I just want to make sure they're not similar. There were a lot of dudes when the Ravens were in the Super Bowl last time that were trying to sneak back out at halftime to watch Beyonce because she did the halftime show. You may or may not be playing on Sunday. Is there any chance that, like, if you're not, you try to wander back out to catch a little bit of Nelly at halftime?
I could just go out there and check them out, see how the fans is, the vibe and all of that.
I think people are going to be. I think
it'll be cool.
I think Rita's a hater.
Really cool.
Nelly is not performing Tip Drill, and if you know the song that I'm talking about, then you understand what I mean. So you won't be missing much.
Nelly has some other songs though.
Okay.
So he's not going to just play the one song for 3 minutes and then leave.
But that's the one song that's the last song we're going to hear. You know that.
Absolutely. You got to get the fans fired up for the second half.
It's getting hot.
It's getting hot in here. Oh, we ain't taking no clothes off. It's too cold out there to be taking some clothes off. Nah, we ain't going to do that.
Mark, you could book anyone. We'll say it's for a post-game concert, so you could actually enjoy it instead of a halftime show, which you won't be able to watch. You could book anybody in the world to come play a post-game concert after a game. Who would you want it to be?
Kodak.
Yeah.
Kodak Black, man.
I mean, did you get to meet him when he was in the?
I was beside him, hanging out and stuff, but that was about it. I ain't really just talk to him or nothing like that.
Mark, did you get a chance to?
Yeah, I was just around, man. Everybody in our locker room was just hyped up. We were excited, man. So, yeah, that was a cool moment. But
all right.
that'd be a good one for us.
Mark, we like to play a game like who's the most famous person in your phone. Like Marlon had Quavo from Migos in his phone, which I think is the winner so far. Anybody that you would?
None, man. All my famous people I know through football. So Marlon's got me beat there.
Yeah, I think he's got everybody beat. I think it's going to be hard to top that at any point this season. It'd be super random if at some point somebody was like, yeah, I got Michael Jordan's number.
Hey, you'd be surprised. It's a lot of guys in there that know some people now.
Yeah, it's real.
A lot of guys who know some big name people.
Okay, is there somebody that is there someone that's friends with someone that's famous enough that you've tried to glom on in any way?
Nah, that ain't never been me, man. Ain't never been me. But I mean, if the opportunity came up where I was with them and they was around, and of course,
if you found out that someone was friends with Beyonce, for example.
That's the Houston connection. I know you know a cousin, a play cousin.
I know a few people who's like been in that realm around her, but not personally.
Okay.
Yeah, I know Beyonce. Nah, I ain't been around none of that.
I want to make this abundantly clear. If at some point you let on that you're friends with Beyonce, I'm going to glom on. Like, I just need you to know, like, I'm going to attempt
I would definitely like to meet Jay-Z, though. Kind of pick his brain.
That was so they came to the Ravens Super Bowl party
I heard
afterwards.
About that. Yeah.
And everybody got to hang out afterwards. I believe it was Carrie Williams who was like, I tried to tell my daughter we should say goodbye to them, and she didn't have a clue. She just thought, like, we'll see them tomorrow.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
Like, that's
crazy.
We're friends now.
Oh, wow.
Like, you don't understand. I don't need to say goodbye. I can just say I'll see you tomorrow.
I'll see you tomorrow, Beyonce.
Right?
And Jay-Z, I'll see y'all.
Next nice to meet you.
Yeah,
see
nice
you tomorrow.
To meet you. Yeah, that's crazy, man.
Big game, obviously, on Sunday. Bengals. First of all, let's talk about, like, night games in general. Most players tell me that they just prefer playing 1 o'clock. Like, you're just used to it. Like, it's the whole system thing. What does night game mean to you?
I feel like the only downside of night games is that you have to wait till nighttime to play, especially when you get in that mode and you're just ready to get out there and play football. But just being under the lights, seeing all the fans out there, and just the feeling, how it is playing on Sunday night, man. It's just a different type of vibe. It's a different type of mood that you put yourself in. So I love it, man. I love playing under the lights. I love showing what I can do, showing what this team can do, man. And we're trying to make something happen.
Mark, what about you?
Yeah, it's just that extra energy, especially in M&T and in Baltimore. They do a great job of just the fans being there and the light shows that they put on, and just the whole atmosphere is wild. So we know that when it's Sunday night, 8 o'clock around that time when it's time to kick off, it's go time.
I was gonna ask, do you guys get it? Like, do you like the light shows and everything they do for the night? Like, do you guys pay attention to it?
Absolutely.
They try to act like y'all big and bad, but I feel like y'all enjoy that stuff too.
Of course we do.
Yeah, I think
and Nelly.
Enough. Friend.
No, but I think it was the Cleveland game of last year.
Yes.
I was with I want to say it was a break during one of the quarters, and they turned off the lights and had a little light show. And I was just talking with Dafe, like, man, like, just seizing the moment and just seeing all the fans with the lights going on, and just like, man, we're in this predicament of playing this game of football with all these fans here, and you just embrace, you just take it all in, and you just really see how appreciative you are to be around these guys and to
being present.
Yeah, just being present, man. That was like the coolest part.
That's cool. That's real cool. A Tyus Bowser Show, PressBox 105.7 The Fan, brought to you by Maryland Vascular Specialists. Their team of surgeons is Maryland's leaders in ethical arterial procedures. You guys both know what Ravens Steelers has been all about. After last year, like, are you feeling something related to the Bengals where that could be like the game for the next 5 years or something like that? That there's a little bit more here than maybe there is to another game.
I mean, it's always been a thing with us with the Bengals. There's some tough. I don't know, man. There's some bad blood with them, especially how we went out last year.
There's bad blood with everybody in our division.
Yeah,
you know, so.
Yeah. But just
I'm starting to think Mark's got bad blood with everyone when he walks on a football field.
Yeah, but it was just the way that they came out, knowing how well we play against them, and they just felt some type of way. So we're trying to come back at them this week, you know, just to make sure that that's not a fluke, you know.
I get that. So I get that. Mark, like going through that a year ago and seeing how they've kind of risen up, like once upon a time we used to make fun of the Bengals around these parts, like that.
Yeah, we used to call them the Bungles.
Right. Like, what does this now mean now moving forward?
Yeah, I think for us and the point that we're at in the season, and really any time you start, you know, playing all these games, it's one game at a time, it's one day at a time, it's one play at a time. Not looking too far ahead, because when you're playing in this league, there's a lot of great players, there's a lot of great teams. You can't take anybody lightly, and especially in our division when we know that you know, someone says like these games counts as two, you know, so it means that much more. There's that much more energy. It's going to be that much more of a playoff-like atmosphere. So there's more at stake.
Yeah.
Mark, we saw a video from the Patriots game of a young man that was in the stands that appeared to be a Patriots fan, but yet he was wearing your jersey, and he held up a poster that said T1D. And I think most people are familiar with your journey and what you go through every day, living with type 1 diabetes. But that moment was really quite touching for me, because this is a dude that a kid that roots for another team, but yet was dying to meet you. Can you explain, like, when you interact? I know somebody came up to you tonight and was talking to you about their own journey, like what that means to you and what it meant to see a kid who's like a huge Patriots fan but was there wearing your jersey and wanting to spend time with you.
Man, for me, it's just letting them know, and letting, you know, people with type 1 diabetes know that, you know, I've walked in their shoes. I walk in their shoes daily. You know, so just know that, you know, to know that they're not alone, to follow their dreams, to keep on working hard, and not let people say, you know, not to let, you know, people say that they can't do anything, because they can. You know, it's that's something that hits home to me, and I just want to encourage anybody and any families that are out there that are struggling with type 1 diabetes or just going through it, just to keep on going, and just know that you're not alone, and there's better days out there, but just live in the day that you're in right now.
There was I think I mentioned earlier that Mark is on the cover of the new issue of PressBox, and the story that Bo Smolka wrote, like he talked about, like, you had a day when you were first in college where, you know, there was, like, your roommate had to pounce into action. Like, that's a real thing for you that you can't, like, you just don't get to ignore one day, wake up and be like, I don't feel like dealing with it today.
Yeah, that's part of it, man. It's a scary kind of thing you have to deal with, but you got to do what you got to do. So I've been fortunate to have great people around me that look after me, and sometimes bad days happen with type 1 diabetes, but you know, I encourage, and my advice to people out there is to have people around you that really care about you and that look after you.
It's awesome. And then Tyus, I got to ask you about JPP. I know how much it meant to you when the connection that you had with Justin. We had him out here a couple weeks ago. I mean, that's a legend, right? Like that's a dude that's done everything in this game. What's it like being around that guy? Have you already been able to have like a conversation to try to pick something up from, a guy that's done everything showing up in your locker room?
Yeah, man. With him, he's an open book. He always says that whenever you need help, if you need to talk about something, he's always there, man. And that's one thing that I appreciate most about him. Just being the vet that he is and the player that he is, like being able to share his knowledge and what he's been able to capture and see and embrace, for the many years that he's done, and to just soak in all the knowledge that, he has and what he knows and try to apply that to my game. And that's what, I try to do for the young guys as well, just leaning on him and learning from him. I could do the same thing for the young guys like Dafe and other guys as well, kind of show and help them be the best players that they can be.
Love it. I love it. All right, can we ask for a favor? Mm-hmm. The next time we do this show, can it please be after a win? Like, please.
Yeah.
Please.
We're gonna be back in that win column.
All right, I love the sounds of that. Y'all make some more noise for Tyus Bowser and Mark Andrews. Thank you, guys. Mark, I was like, is there anything we can plug for you? Anything charitable-wise you're doing? Anything that we can just talk up for you before we let you go?
Nothing, man. Just bring that noise on Sunday.
I love that. Love that. Tyus?
Hey, he said it all.
I pray that it's Sunday, but, whenever it is, we can't wait. We were like Bart Scott, really. Like, we can't wait.
Hey, we can't wait either.
I know that's true. All right, thank you all for coming out here tonight to Guilford Hall Brewery. Want to thank them for having us. Thank you to our partners, Great 8's Memorabilia. Don't forget, they've got a great event with Devin Duvernay coming up in October up in Bel Air to help fight the battle against breast cancer. It benefits the Susan G. Komen Foundation. Great8smemorabilia.com is how you find out more. Thanks to Maryland Vascular Specialists. Thanks to Ginsu Kamado Grills. Rita, love you. Even though you're bailing on me for post-game this week, I still love you.
Hey, man, y'all know I'm an old lady. I can't be up 1 o'clock in the morning talking about football. I'm sorry. I can't do it.
It's what it is. I understand.
But I will be doing the Winning Drive podcast. That's why right. I got to do it.
You can listen to Winning Drive. Appreciate y'all. We will see you next time. This has been the Tyus Bowser Show.